Hello, it's that time of the month again where we get to give a massive shout out to the following people: Andy Marsh, Cole Hutchinson, David Hearn, Sven Oster, 2000 DC, Gary Heather, Roger McNally, Lee Dove, Ben Granville, Mark Fletcher, Etienne Vettingfeld, Niall Bullitt, Alexander Gosling, Tim TJ Walker, Phil Sowerby, Joshua K, Dominic Kendrick, Rune P, Nick James, Daniel Spreadbury, Peter Price, Richard Davey, Dennis B, ALH2 Retro, Liam Carew, Dylan Darch, Alistair McMillan, Mark Schutz, Lee Sparkles, Dan Wales, Gary Wilson, Oscar Jacobson, Brian Howarth, Rob Clayton, Clyde Radcliffe, Juan Luis Sanchez, Adam Askew, Leo Staples, Jason Hutchins, Kian Halholm, David Stringer, Chris Snowden, and David Winter. These amazing people have backed our Patreon at the C64 tier. Support they offer, well, it's just awesome. If you want to join them, get a mention in next month's shout out, access to our Discord server, early access to ad-free episodes, along with anything special we can think up and put out along the way, and sign up by the 18th of the month at patreon.com/zapped to the past for little more than the price of a pint of beer. It's actually probably less than a pint of beer now, but sign up if you want to get in on all that. And now, on with the show. And welcome to episode 143 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 58 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were baffled by Bushido, spaced out by Space Rogue, and mangled by Meganova the Weapon. This week, we continue our look at February 1990, the second batch of games reviewed in issue 58 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK albums chart that month. Graham, tell us of the games we will speak of this week.
In an exciting month where the spacecraft Galileo flew by Venus at an altitude of 10,000 miles and James Buster Douglas KO'd Mike Tyson in the 10th round in Tokyo, presumably during a boxing match, we comb our dirty flat tops, scratch our nicotine-stained stubble, pop on our muddy combat pants and head into the dodgy city looking for kidnappers and hooligans in the flashing trouser world of Vendetta. We explore the well-drawn and challenging depths of an aquatic base using a cybernoid-shaped submersible in the cybernoid-inspired budget cybernoid clone, Shark, and pop on our football boots for no reason and head into familiar, if decidedly less jolly territory with the pointless sequel, Footballer of the Year 2. So much happened in February 1990. It's easy to forget that Steve Bryers of Wales recited the entire lyrics of Queen's album A Night at the Opera in 9 minutes 58.44 seconds, all backwards. While that sinks in, we also get our robot Gideon and explore the rows and columns of some math puzzles, while at the same time exploring some robotic erotica with the semi-naked androids of Blue Angel 69, before finally taking a deep breath and relax again as we look at yet another arcade conversion from our quality-conscious and ethical friends at Ocean, this time the reprehensible and insulting Chase HQ. Be prepared for that one. Well, there are some odd games here, that's for sure. Some of them even feature topless robots. I mean, did anyone ask for that? Did we need games with robo-boobs? It's certainly turning out to be a freaky February. Consider yourself told.
I'm well told. I love being told. Makes me feel all warm and tingly inside. It's lovely.
That bloody told you, didn't it? You know, told good and proper. Yeah. What do you think of that? Yeah. Not so cocky now, are you?
I'm not.
Whatever that means.
I don't know what that means. But I'll tell you what, I am glad. I'm glad we reduced the games to only 5.
Yeah, I am actually. It's like, been manageable.
And also, if the quality stays as the quality is, it's going to be a... I was hoping
honestly,
it'd go up.
Some of these games have made me want to lay eggs, and that's very rare.
Absolutely.
That's the last thing anyone needs.
No one wants that.
No, they don't.
It's like life has found a way.
It ain't no yoke.
Absolutely. These frogs, they've got split DNA.
Exactly. They're both their mothers and their own fathers.
They come from Grantham. No, I didn't say that.
You did, but you know what? I actually know somebody from Grantham. He probably wouldn't be offended at that.
No, probably not. I've been to Grantham.
Okay.
I'm just leaving it at that.
Moving on.
For all our fans from Grantham, no offence meant, but
none at all. No. All our fan from Grantham.
Well, he's two. He counts as two. He's both mother and father.
He is. Yes. He was born.
Who knows
born from an egg on a mountaintop, I believe. So.
Absolutely, and then pissed on a giant's finger.
Okay, right. Moving on.
I've gone from Grantham to Monkey.
Most people do, strangely enough. It's the next town along.
It's another market town in Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire is awash with old market towns. Historic market town. Oh, is it? Is it really? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Anyway, any road up.
Anyway, should we do some games?
Yeah.
We've got 5 this week.
I think we better.
We have 5 this week. All right, after that, no more giant fingers. Let's get on to our first game. And, well, it's a big one. It's another biggie. It's a sizzler. Vendetta. That's what it is, Vendetta. Just 2 months on from Myth, we have another System 3 big hitter with Vendetta lighting up the pages this month. It's got a whopping 93%.
93%?
Absolutely. 7 short of perfection.
Yeah, okay.
When you put it that way, it's all like, A.
Yeah, A. Okay.
Giving it Sizzler status. Production here was by Mark Cale, as ever. I don't know whether he takes the writing credits for the manual. We'll find out whether it's the usual Mark Cale go for, whether it's Stanley Shembry, because it was coded by Stanley Shembry. He did Cauldron 2, Sacred Armor of Antiriad, and The Barbarian as well. He worked on all of those. I believe, so he'd worked on this for the last couple of years. There's a scrolling message that comes up on the title screen, speaking of all kinds of woes and drinking a lot of beer to keep himself going and it not being a particularly good couple of years. So I can only presume that, because when did Palace go out? Was it 88?
Yeah.
Because it was that Rim Runner and stuff, one that was the last ones, but Palace sort of imploded, didn't they? I think they went. So maybe Shembry was working there, found another jobs working on this. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
He's doing it. The graphics here by Tony Hagar and Paul Doherty.
Hey, good old Doc. The doctor. The doctor's in the house.
And sound is by Thumpy Matt Gray. And the audio effects are by the Maniacs of Noise.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, it's very strange that we do music. Yeah, we don't know. We've got Matt.
Yeah.
We just want you to do some sound effects.
Sorry, had Matt. This is the last game he did for him.
Oh, is it? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
it's a solid team of competent C64 talent. Really, it's good load of talent there. So this will obviously be very good. There's obviously a story behind this, and I'm going to tell you that story right now. This is the story of Vendetta, straight out the manual. The rain was playing its usual winter chorus on the dirt-ridden, cracked window and seemed to pound incessantly in time with the flickering neon lights which adorned the murky skies of the neighbourhood.
Long sentence.
Are you moody yet, Graham? Are you moody?
Written like a good 15-year-old.
A figure sits alone, rooted to this pathetic hovel he calls a home, and runs a scarred hand through 4 days of stubbled, nicotine-stained growth which clings to his stone-cut jaw. Are you moody yet, Graham? Are you? It's at times like these he remembers and sinks deeper into the comforting arms of a bottle of whiskey.
Comforting arms?
Of a bottle. I don't know.
Sorry,
I don't know if it's a mixed metaphor or what. I don't know. The memories come flooding back as fast and furious as the relentless raindrops, and his eyes seem blurred and somewhat confused at whatever this story is, with a combination of unanswerable questions and the inevitable alcohol.
What?
That's what it says. The inevitable alcohol. Probably. A one-time war hero. This guy put his unit on the map, which you don't want to do because the enemy will find you.
Yeah, key tactical note there. Don't put your location on any map if you're a part of a secret service or something.
Don't do it. He was the best and they knew it. If something had to be done, he did it.
Well, that's the life in the military, I think, is the...
Putting up shelves, digging a hole. He was ace.
Wearing his shoes on the wrong feet.
He'd do it. He did it. It was this loyalty to an unprecedented military career that impressed all around him, and he found himself the enviable role model to all the young rookies, still wet behind the ears, who idolise his every manoeuvre, his every idea, and his sometimes questionable solutions.
Why would they idolise his solutions if they're questionable?
I don't know. It was his combat wisdom which brought about the downfall of a bloodthirsty terrorist group.
Okay.
Intent on a crusade to become the ultimate power syndicate, they very nearly succeeded in Saigon before the army played its trump card and a hero was born.
Hey?
Just go with it. Just go with it, man. The terrorist group scattered, believed immobilised, and obviously intent on revenge. But they were scattered and believed immobilised.
I so want to play the Predator music behind this when you're doing this, but I might have to.
You might have to. His efficiency had been second to none, but his type worried the men at the top. No mere combat soldier could possibly seem to have a higher public profile than the bureaucratic leaders. He had to go. He had to learn to become a citizen all over again.
I'm kind of lost, but carry on.
There's loads yet. A half-ton carrier bag containing his only worldly goods and a tongue-in-cheek pat on the back seemed little consolation for what this man had done. The injustice, the unnecessary pain, and the fear of having to live a seemingly futile existence tore him in two, and a now clouded understanding of his treatment pulled at his heartstrings and questioned his loyalty to a government, good lord, for whom he had once thought so proud. There's no punctuation. There's no
proudly.
I don't know.
Well, if you thought proud, it'd mean you had something sticking out.
He thought so proud. The police seemed to be niggling at him all the time, endlessly harassing him for any apparent reason, however trivial, trying to make him crack, trying to make him public enemy number one. Why would the police be doing this? He was in the army. He annoyed the army brass.
Why would they even be bothered with it? They've got other things to do.
Absolutely. A personality clash had developed between him and a general way back in Saigon. A cowardly general, jealous of his heroic image and seemingly immortal status among the troops. Now was the time to get his own back. He had achieved numerous promotions throughout the police force and was now calling the shots. Now, I don't know the career prospects of a general in the army, but I don't think it means going into the police and having to get up to become a commander in the police force. That doesn't seem right. Normally they just retire and just in the big house.
Yeah, they don't generally join the police.
No. Make his life hell, were the orders distributed through the system, and the police endeavoured to do just that. Society was not allowed to accept him back under her motherly wing. Not very motherly.
Not very motherly.
He questioned himself time and time again, looking for an answer, looking for a way back, looking for days through that same cracked glass window in the window frame which stood like a huge brick wall between him and the existence he so rightly deserved.
Get you an oxygen tank at this rate.
Forced to live life as a virtual recluse, he draws comfort from what remains of a once tight family unit, his close brother and his lovely niece.
What? Oh, life of a virtual recluse.
A lovely niece. His brother, a highly regarded professor who works for the Ministry of Defence, pulled him through his dilemma and has strived to provide him with a new foundation upon which to build his life. He is himself a pillar of importance to the government. Pillar of importance. As the one man who can and has devised a precious formula for the creation of the ultimate military defence mechanism, which in the wrong hands could be dramatically used for destruction on a colossal scale. Sounds like a big bomb to me, not a military defence mechanism. Yeah. How differently the government viewed two brothers who were second to none in their respective fields.
They don't view them differently.
High risk categorised the professor's work, and he seemed somewhat oblivious to his obvious personal danger. It was therefore not surprising when the professor and his daughter went missing. There were signs of a struggle. This is funny, this bit. There were signs of a struggle. Torn pieces of clothing littered his study, and combined with occasional bullet shells and blood to outline a sinister atmosphere in the room, which signified obvious terrorist activity.
What?
I don't know. I love that.
Okay.
Torn pieces of clothing. Well, these bullets and all that blood.
Someone's definitely been kidnapped from this room. I can see that.
By terrorists.
By terrorists. How do you know it's terrorists? I don't know.
Don't know.
I just do.
The confusion is still there. You're not kidding. The burning desire to be accepted once again now takes second place to the worry that is twisting his mind. His brother, his niece, his only incoming love were now in serious trouble.
Fresh love. He needs the love. It's all about the love.
It had become apparent that his lethal adversaries from the Saigon days had taken them, were striving for bigger things again, and therefore craved the professor's secret formula. His mind flicked over the terrorist letter of demands over and over again. What letter?
Has there been mention of a letter?
No.
Do terrorists leave letters generally?
There was blood, there was bullet shells and torn clothing. No letter.
I mean, they don't generally leave letters, do they? They kind of do video, that kind of thing.
and his fist clenched in defiance as he read that the 2 hostages were to be killed if the valuable formula was not delivered in time. Why not just get the professor to make it?
Yeah.
They've got him.
Yeah.
It was obvious to him and the public that the police thought he was connected in some way.
Public?
Why?
What have they got to do with it?
This was the old general's chance to put him away for good. The ultimate revenge.
What did he do to this general that would go to these elaborate lengths?
I don't know. The tempo of the rain hammering against the window increased with his heartbeat, and the relentless thoughts staring through the window continued and swirled around his mind as he slowly drew conclusions to what he could and must do. His work in Saigon now seemed incomplete. Loose ends from his last mission had to be tied up, and it now seemed obvious he would have to clear his own name from being suspect number 1. Perhaps he would be finally accepted by a public now craving for a new hero. He knew he had the right credentials. The best. Stygian. He knew he had to save the only family he had and loved. It was payback time. It was his mission. This had become personal. This was now a vendetta.
I so want you to say Vienetta at the end of that. I don't know
this
why.
Was a Vienetta. Anyway, there you go. That's the story.
Quite what to make of that, really.
I don't know.
Very good. Very good. Yes, well done.
Absolutely.
Well done.
C+, see me after.
Golf clap for that, I think.
Absolutely. As you rightly pointed out, though, very similar to Commando.
Yeah, it is a bit like Commando, isn't it?
Yeah, Jenny. Anyway, on to the game after that lot. This starts off well with a moody intro sequence. It's obviously heavily influenced by films that were probably straight to video in the 80s. It's got a really good intro, this game. Really good. I really like it. We get a screen with the title across the top. It's a moody piece of synth-style Carpenter-esque music from Matt Gray, and a TV and video in the bottom right. It starts off with some static before play is pressed on the video. We then get a shot of a girl in bed before we see light cast on her and a shadow as someone enters the room. Then see her wake up as a hand is placed over her mouth and she's led outside and thrown into the boot of a waiting car, her hand reaching out as the boot slams down. There you go, and it cuts back to static. As an intro, it's very good. Sets a dark tone for the game. I was quite looking forward to this. Little video snippets are well drawn and atmospheric for the time. The use of music and grainy visuals work well. It put me in the mind of Manhunt, obviously way down the line. Rockstar's infamous game from the Xbox and PS2 era, which had a similar, albeit technically more impressive use of video to portray its story. But although, all resemblance of that flies out the window when you press fire to actually start the game. But yeah, so that intro is, I thought, I don't really remember this game, but this is boding well. Nice movie.
Yeah, false flag.
Quite cool. Yeah, too right. Yeah. So when you press fire, the screen flashes and the phrase "Let's rock" appears for some reason.
So stupid. So stupid.
And then the first screen draws itself before your very eyes. The game itself is a 3D isometric adventure, not dissimilar to what we had in Last Ninja. It's that kind of viewpoint. But the view of the world is bigger here, though. So whereas Last Ninja was always in that little window in the top left corner, wasn't it? But here, the game takes up the top 3/4 of the screen. So there's more screen afforded to the game itself, and the UI is across the bottom. There are 3 sections to the UI. The bottom left shows the time. It's like, I don't know if it's in like a watch. I think it's supposed to be in a watch.
Digital watch, isn't it? Yeah.
Is it a digital watch? The bottom left, so it shows the time left, because this is a mission where you've only got 60 minutes to complete it, so it's always counting down. It also shows your score above the timer, and surrounding these, like on the edge of the watch, is like a green bar, which is your health, and that depletes as you take damage. But for actually a really nice touch, once you take it, as long as you're alive and you've survived the fight, you can stand there and regenerate your health.
Does regenerate, yes.
Yeah, so that's quite nice, all the way back up to full. In the middle of the UI is a roll of film with 3 visible sections to it. This is your inventory, and items that you pick up will be available here. You can access your UI at any time by pressing F1, and then for some reason, you can only scroll through the inventory in one direction, which is quite annoying. Really annoying. Yeah. And I thought, is this bugged? But I watched a video on YouTube and it was doing the same thing. So no, it isn't. Yeah, it's just stupid. I don't know why it would scroll both ways. Finally, in the bottom right is your weaponry. You start off with just fists and a knife, but you can pick up guns and other armaments as you progress. You flick between these by pressing the space bar, but you need to just be holding nothing to actually pick stuff up. So you've got to disarm yourself to flick. It's easy enough. You just keep pressing space until you get back to your fists. So the game, like I said, is rendered in a similar style to The Last Ninja, with the elements of the screen drawing on as you move from room to room. It's just like 3D. You move about in that kind of isometric way. It's not too bad the way it draws up. I don't know whether it's slower or faster than Last Ninja. I think I'm not
slightly slower. I thought
slightly slow, but if
there's more of it, I guess.
There is, yeah. And if it was any slower, it would have been frustrating. But it's not. It's not to the detriment of the game. It's okay. It's just bearable. Okay. It's just bearable. Controls your character are the usual isometric movement when not pressing the fire button. So up moves you to the top right, I think, or is that I can't remember. It's one of them anyway. But you sort of spin around and you have to sort of move about. It's just, it's those kind of controls. So it's not the same as The Last Ninja with those diagonals. You can only run in 4 cardinal directions in this. If you press the fire button, that sort of does your combat moves. You've pressed the way you are facing. You'll do a high punch or stab if you're holding the knife, or you'll just shoot the gun in that direction if you're holding a gun. The diagonals and the way you're facing will do a mid punch, and left and right, the way you're facing, do a kick. So it's all directional, whatever the word is, I can't think of the word, but it's all to do with the direction you're facing, is to, what these sort of work as. If you're holding a gun, like I said, or grenade, pressing fire will shoot or throw the grenade in the direction you're facing. Also, if you equip a gun, the remaining ammo that it has will appear above the inventory in your UI as a series of reducing cartridge shells. That's quite handy, quite a nice touch as well. So from presentationally, it's fine. The game starts at the Docklands, where you begin your search for your missing brother and niece. You seem to have come in via the water as you start next to a ladder leading out of it, and you're instantly set upon by a nearby guard. Every screen has one enemy, no more, no less. And they respawn as well, which is a pain in the ass. If you choose to take them down, then you're best off switching to your knife and just stabbing them to death. As their health goes down, their trousers will flash to let you know that they are at low health. Indeed, trousers are an important feature for these criminals because according to the manual, it says this: kick or punch doors to gain access into the rooms which hide various weapons to help combat the evil terrorists whose trousers are variously coloured to depict how strong they are.
Okay, you know what? That's a good leader, isn't it?
Trouser-based ranking system.
Yeah, it's like the belts in karate.
It's much simpler, isn't it? Easy to see.
He's a black trouser. Don't go near him.
He's a green trouser. Oh no, he's got a kilt.
He's a white trouser. He'll be easy.
It was not what I was expecting, but there you go.
No, what kind of martial arts bases their entire grading system on the colour of your pants? I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't know. This terrorist group, who on the cover are all wearing Ku Klux Klan hoods as well for some strange reason. But there's only one model of them in the game by the looks of it.
Yeah.
As the screen loads up, items that are to be collected or interacted with will flash. And once you've taken the goon down or the enemy that's on the screen, you're free to wander about the screen and see what you can find. So you just bend down. It's that you don't have to be too precise. As long as you're nearby, you just pull down and press fire, and that squats and picks stuff up. And then you can swap through your stuff. You can pick up extra ammo. You pick up all kinds of interesting stuff. If a door flashes, then that means it can be kicked open. And you'll need to do this as the first door to kick open. Inside, if you go inside there, it gives you a grenade and a machine gun, which makes taking down enemies a doddle, and the game gets a lot easier to navigate. So once you get that gun, you're kind of all right. As you move from room to room, there will usually be just a solitary enemy there, as I said. Most are unarmed, but some are actually armed with guns, and if you don't, you've got to mow them down quite quickly because they will batter you with gunfire. So you need to take them out really quickly. But usually it's only like one shot to hit them and they're down. So it's not too hard, this. Progressing into the docks allows you to pick up various objects, interact with computers, find code. It's a bit fiddly. You have to find some stuff as well, sort of that feeds into the next bit. And what you're trying to make your way through the levels to find the proof of existence that your niece and your brother were actually there. So in the first level, you have to make it to this bit where you find a bed and you find a necklace, and then once you found that, you found a key and you can get off. You find the keys and you go to your Ferrari F40. Who knew? He drives in a Ferrari F40. It says it's his Ferrari F40 in the instructions, but it's
not conspicuous at all.
No, it's handily parked on the other side of the dock. I can only presume he parked up and then swam round.
They're really loud as well.
Yeah, someone would notice. Why is this?
Yeah,
someone would just notice.
You'd notice a really, really expensive supercar that they didn't make many of that just happened to be parked near the base, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. The thing is, though, as well, is that it's quite awkward to get in. You have to come at the door from an angle. You can't go face onto it. You have to come at it as if you're coming from the back of the car. If you're struggling at that bit, as I was for a while, I had the key and I was like, just use it. You have to come from the back of the car. So you're sort of walking to the side of it. Very strange. But when you do that, the game switches on you and you're now into a 3D driving game as you wait your way to the next level. So what we have here is like a standard C64 driving game with a grey road, side markings to denote your speed as you pass mountains in the distance. It's sort of up and down hills. The UI changes to display your gear stick and speedometer, except it's all automatic, so I don't know why there's a gear stick really. Which weapon you have equipped, and you've got rockets and machine guns, and you select these with F1 and F3, but only if you found the appropriate object in the first level.
Of course.
Whilst the visuals here are okay, cars and bikes getting in the way, and with cars and bikes getting in the way, ready to be shot, helicopters flying in to be missiled, the controls are not. The car behaves like it's on ice. And the steering needs you to constantly flick it in the opposite direction to stop turning, which is really frustrating. So you start pushing it that way, and it just keeps going that way. You're like, I've let go of the joystick. Oh, I've got to flick it back. And then you're all over the place. And it's not good. It's not how these games should work. No. I found myself sliding back and forth across the road, and whilst that wouldn't be so bad, the merest touch with the curb sends your car into a spin that takes longer the faster you are going, so you don't drive very fast because you don't want to spin too much because it's like on ice and it's very painful. There are also forks in the road. If you found a map in the first level, then you'll actually get arrows to point you in the way you need to go. And that's a nice touch sort of thing, because if you don't know which way to go, and it'll take you longer to get to the next level, which obviously everything's on that 60-minute countdown. So you quite easily possibly run out of time. There are also police that will stop you from time to time, and you need to have collected the right objects in the previous level, or you'd be taken to jail. I've never got taken to jail, so I know what happens. When I played it, they just wanted the wire cutters, which somehow proved I was innocent. I don't understand the logic. I don't understand this logic, but it is what it is. I'm not sure why. They just let me go, and I skidded and careered my way to the next level, which is the army camp. So here, just expect more of the same as what we had in level 1. There's more military-style theme for the background with tanks and stuff like that. More of the same guys. Although this time they do pop up in turrets, but you have to throw a grenade near them, and it sort of scares them back into their turret like a scared turtle. So and then you can just wander past. It's the dragon from the beginning of Last Ninja.
Yeah, it is.
Where you have to throw the smoke bombs and knock out the dragon. It's just the same problem. It's the same stuff. So after collecting more stuff, proving they were here again, I think here you find a shoe. We're back on the road. This time it's got a city in the distance. It's more the same before we get to the airport. Here we run around, get a disguise, solve some more puzzles before we rescue the niece from a booby-trapped plane. And we're back in the car, heading for the big city at night and our final destination. Except when we get there, it's daytime. We get to Central Park. That's where we got to go. We can finally rescue the professor and save the day. And we get a bit of Matt Gray music and a newspaper headline saying how great we are. And that's it. That's the game. That's Vendetta.
Redemption.
Well done, you. I'd say the presentation of this is very good. It's got a great opening. The in-game visuals are pretty decent. Things you can interact with, flashing, that's all good. I liked all that. But the game's got issues. Many of the screens suffer some isometric slowdown, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. It's not as fast and smooth as Last Ninja was. Maybe that's a problem with it taking up more screen space. Maybe that's why they had a smaller screen space in Last Ninja. But there is quite a bit of slowdown in this as you're running about. Sometimes, despite there's only one enemy, sometimes even no enemies on screen, there's slowdown as well. Maybe it's C64 itself, this kind of view. It's annoying. I felt like I was running through treacle at times. The puzzles can be a bit obtuse and not kind of intuitive because of the way you've got to kind of interact with our items. It's like the first one, in the first level, you have to find this red card, put it up against the computer, which gives you a code. Then you have to get the disc. Remember what the code was and get a disc, put the disc in and then type the code in. But it just doesn't feel intuitive.
No.
You should just be able to look at stuff. But the main problem is I'd have just liked some kind of narrative within the game to inform you of what to do. Yep. It's completely lacking. You get all that massive spiel in the manual, so that paints that backstory, but there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing beyond that. You're just wandering around, finding stuff and shooting the respawning guards until you figure out what to do. There's no real explanation of why you head off from the docklands to an army base, to an airport, then to Central Park. It's unconnected. It's 4 unconnected levels with a driving bit in the middle, with a game that is predicated on setting up the narrative with that opening, where she gets, Denise gets kidnapped and all that stuff and everything like that. It's a bit of a shame and a bit overlooked. It would have been good to find notes that you could read and things like that gave you some information as to where to go and what to do next. Some, that they might have had beat up one of the enemies and they drop something and it says, we're heading to the army, we're taking it to the army base.
Dialogue or something.
Yeah, just anything. Or we hit you over here something. There's a note on somewhere saying, take the prisoners to the army base. At least then you'd have been like, right, got to go to the army base. Would have made sense. Here, there's absolutely nothing that I can figure out. I don't know. So, I don't know, but just something to provide me some background. The main core of the game is fine, I guess. Running around shooting bad guys is okay, but it gets a bit dull. I think the driving sequences are a massive misstep. Not only do they control badly, they don't really add anything to the game. In fact, they actively make it worse. There are only 4 levels, so I would have much preferred another level or 2 of the main game and some more interesting narrative beats to pull me along. Yeah, Last Ninja didn't have those either, but it kept its core gameplay the same, and the journey you went on made sense as you infiltrated the enemy base. You had a clear goal, and you were heading into the base, and every level seemed to lead from one to the next. You weren't just traveling. Why are you traveling to an airport? I don't know. Why are we traveling to an army base? I don't know. Who's in the Central Park? I don't know. So the locations are logical here. They don't just make no sense. And tying them together with a not very good driving, which, and here's the other thing. Zapped said the driving bit in this stands up to Turbo Outrun or Power Drift.
No.
It's like, whatever. No, it doesn't. It's not even close. It just doesn't really work. I'd also say that the lack of in-game music is another huge oversight as well. You've got Maniacs of Noise and Matt Gray on duties here, and you've got no in-game music. I don't understand it. They could have used some low-level menacing music throughout. Just a hum or something, or just something. Some Carpenter-esque sort of, it's that you've aimed for that kind of thing with the intro, but you've completely missed it in the game itself. Don't know. That straight-to-video feel, what we'd see later on in Manhunt, that has great music sort of for the intro. Not much in-game, but it has a menace and a sense of, place. This, because it's a C64, it just needed some music. I don't know. I guess for what it is and when it came out, System 3, they gave it 93%. They were probably impressed, and it is impressive in some ways, but you were more willing to fill in the blanks back then that the game didn't tell you. But I don't know. Here and now, it's a half decent game with a poor driving section tacked on. It's just boring and a bit bland, and the levels are really small as well. There's only a few screens to them. You can run through them quite quickly when you know what you're doing. Once you get the gun, you can just find the stuff, you just leg it. It could have been great, this. There's a really good field system, and I think, at some point along the line, somebody should have stepped in and gone, kick that driving thing out. So whoever is producing this, where System 3 got hold of it from Stanley Shembri, he wanted to do it. I don't know the ins and outs of the making of, but I think someone somewhere should have gone, that's not adding anything. And we can better spend the time making some more levels and connecting them better. But it's just half good and it's half really bad. So Vendetta, it's a bit of a mess, I thought. What did you think?
Thumpy but decent title music from Matt Gray, wasn't it? His last for System 3, he's actually put a comment on, is it AL82? Is it AL82? One of our amazing patrons. He records a lot of those long play videos, doesn't he? On his long play video of this game, Matt Gray's put a comment about the music and the fact that it was his last bit of music for System 3.
Oh, right.
Sort of a little bit of an explanation, but yeah, it was. Anyway, some nice background graphics in this as well. Borrows heavily, I thought, from Last Ninja 2, in that look and feel. But good
aesthetic, isn't it?
Yeah, but good nonetheless. Same sort of colour scheme, I think. I thought the locations work for what they are, and there's a good world to explore. Well, there's a good series of levels, screens to explore. In the way that it's rendered. It's maybe rendered a little bit slowly, but they're interesting to look at. There's good stuff going on in the background. They look like what they are. I like that.
Yeah.
But the problems begin for me really after that. So firstly, controlling the hero is an oddly frustrating experience. It sort of sits between Last Ninja and some kind of isometric game. I get that, which leaves the direction somewhat clunky. Yes. The fighting adds to this. It's sort of like Last Ninja, but the moves are less obvious and the alignment with the enemy seems weird to attain.
Yeah.
Using the spacebar to change weapon, that works. That's no problem. But it's not clear if you've picked things up always. So when you do, it's not always obvious that you've got it, and you just got to press your spacebar and see if you have it. So it's a little bit weird like that. So I don't know. And that led me to the second issue. Even with the little flashing X markers for clues, you can never actually see the objects you're picking up half the time. So you never really know if you've reached it. It sort of flashes for a second when you come into the screen, then it's disappeared.
Yeah.
Some of them are sort of behind cabinets, and some of them are inside of things, but you don't know that for sure. You just have to go over and kind of hope you remember where it flashed. It's a bit like cross the ball. The old cross the ball. It's a bit like that. So, unless you've got a good memory, and of course, when the flashes happen, all right, they enter, you can re-enter the screen and see them again. Okay, fine.
That's what I had to do repeatedly, yeah.
But actually picking the object up is weird, and it's like I said, it's not obvious you've done it. And that led me to problem number 3, respawning enemies. At least in Last Ninja 2, you could get rid of people. So they respawn, but you could actually get rid of them, couldn't you, for a while at least? Yeah. Here, there's a couple of kind of quirks, isn't there? Enemies explode and vanish when you defeat them, which is a really dumb choice in a game like this.
Yep.
That's really stupid. It's a stupid thing to do. Just have them drop on the floor dead, like they do in all the other games from System 3 except this one. Mm-hmm. Why not do that? And they respawn as soon as you enter and leave the room. That's really annoying. I think you pointed that out too. And it's counter to having limited ammo as well. If the enemies constantly respawn, or in this case, they're constantly changing the guard, like what happened to Terry? Oh, he's dead. put another one on. So they've
Terry,
got constant,
Terry 2.
They've got constant spawning enemies, but you don't have infinite ammo. So I think that's a bit of a silly problem, really.
Yeah.
They just follow the logic that you've used in all your previous games. Anyway, that led me to issue number 4. You've got a single life and one single load of energy. I know it replenishes, but you can very easily find yourself stuck in an angle loop where you're getting hit and you don't seem to be hitting them.
Yep.
Because of kind of an obtuse angle that you find yourself at. I always find myself confronting these guys at weird angles. I don't know if it's just me.
Oh, so slightly overlapped as well. You'd be overlapping sprites and stuff. And
yeah, because nobody kind of runs at you in a straight line because they can't. So they kind of run to the left and then run forward a bit. Or they, it's like so you always end up sort of fighting at odds with the angle, and you end up in mid fight you'll turn and face the wrong way because you'll be doing these kind of things. It's a little bit faffy. And I find that impacted the way the fighting led because the fights have no impact. So it's not, apart from their trousers glowing, there's no real indication that they're getting anywhere with it.
Nope.
And yes, I think they move their heads. There is a slight indication, but it's not obvious. And because the sprites aren't huge, it's not easy to see. And that led me to point 5. The fighting moves are borderline invisible. And you don't really know they're working, like I said, till the enemy's pants glow, which is kind of weird. And again, another odd choice.
Mm-hmm.
Really odd, when their pants glow until they explode. They put exploding pants on people, which is kind of odd for any, secret army. Even the knife with it's kind of odd looking when you fight with it. So it's sort of, I mean, it's the only one that actually looks like it's a huge knife. I mean, it's like a sword. Anyway, at least with the gun, you don't have to aim. And I found that okay, but sometimes I'd shoot and it would kill them in one shot. Sometimes it didn't. And maybe they're wearing body armor, I guess. But I don't know. It's sometimes, and I could shoot them in the right direction and it killed them. Other times I'd shoot and it wouldn't do anything and they would be shooting at me. I find it really frustrating.
Yeah.
It was inconsistent. And that led me to point 6, the stupid way the map renders when you enter rooms. There are only doors in the top left and top right in this game, no matter what. So no matter what direction you enter these rooms from, top or bottom, whatever direction you enter, you will always come back into the room from the top left or the top right, which is disorienting and throws the map into chaos. And it breaks your brain in an isometric game to go up into a room and then come into it from the top left. You're like, it's weird. And I get it. It's isometric. I get all that, but that's a stupid choice. So if you're going to have a navigation like isometric, stick to the isometric. So if I go into a room from the bottom, I would expect to enter that room from the bottom. Maybe there's just a limitation around how they did it. I don't know. But that led me to point 7. The pace of your movement is weird. As you walk around, it's like the hero is taking lots of tiny little steps. It's like he's a Japanese geisha in feudal Japan. It's like, da, 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 da. This makes the sound effects of your movement annoying because instead of being, thumpy feet, it's like he's doing little steps. He's got tiny little feet or big feet. I don't know. But anyway, it just makes the whole pace of the game seem odd because you're kind of teetering about, which led me to problem number 8. The game needed music. As you correctly pointed out, these games only work with music to drive the atmosphere. The last Ninja games, both 1 and 2, proved that. They've already proved it in tests.
Yeah.
So all these sound effects, and not very good ones, really, are they? Throughout the game, the sounds are limited and don't add any atmosphere in any section of the game, which led to problem number 9. The driving sections. These are dumb and pointless and not very good. An unwelcome addition to the game, they provide nothing that draws you in and serve only to frustrate your efforts in the main game anyway. They all seem way too difficult to control than they should be. The controls are weird and the graphics here aren't very good, I didn't think. Adding a crappy driving game in this won't help you add the issues, which leads me to my 10th and final problem. The levels here are samey and on the whole boring and short. There's some nice detail in the background graphics, as I've said, and your hero sprite, while stocky and clearly Matrix from the Commando movies, albeit with tiny feet, is okay, but the levels don't take much exploring and they don't last long. Indeed, not much more than a few screens, really, and then you've got the crappy driving sequence again.
Yep.
I dreaded that driving sequence when I got to that car. I'm like, oh, God, not again.
Yep.
It's a disappointing game, this, considering it's more or less the last Ninja 2 with moderately different trousers and a crap driving game mixed in. It's more flashing trousers. It starts well. I'll give it that. Presentation, great. Nice music. All that packaging's good. Stupid story aside, obviously, but it's got the System 3 buzz to it, and I get that. But it quickly descends into a kind of the usual System 3 problems: poor controls, obtuse puzzles, weird collectibles. You can't find things, no hints of any kind, or vague hints in the instruction manual, which seems to be their way of getting around that. You just, I don't know, all of that, it doesn't mask the kind of dreariness of this game. It's just dreary. It gets boring to play. It's just dreary. Clump, 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 clump. Oh, look, I found a disc. Clump, 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 clump. It's like, just stop clumping. Anyway, I just felt that this could have been a lot better than it was.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So no, it's just, I didn't enjoy my time with it. I just find it clumpy and not very good. Not what I thought it would be.
No, exactly. This is what I said. It flatters to deceive from its beginning.
Yeah, good screenshots, not so good for the game. Yeah.
Once you play it, just music. Just put some music in.
Yeah, so especially when you got Matt Gray, who's really good at that. I mean, look what he did for Last Ninja 2, you stupid, dumb idiots.
Yeah, or Driller.
Yeah, but if you're going to get anyone to do a kind of urbanite game with, or that kind of thing, it would be a good choice.
I was tempted to play this with the Driller music playing and just go, does it? And I mean,
it would be good, actually.
It would be about 100% better, probably, because it would fit really well. Would. Yeah,
I tell you what, that'd be worth trying, because I bet it does really. It would really add to the game. I think it would probably make it feel a lot better. Yeah, I agree.
Probably would. Anyway, there we go. Vendetta. It could have been a lot Vendetta. Yeah, good one. Like that one. Surprised I didn't come out myself. That's it. That's our first game. We still have 2 more this part though. So let's along from that one and get into our next game. And that, after a poor driving section, is over to you, Graham, to tell us all about Shark.
Yeah, my pants are flashing at this one already. So this is Shark. This was $2.99. It was published by Players Premier. Yeah. Ooh, extra quid. That means extra quid. The creator was Philip Ruston, and the musician was Mark Wilson. No relation to Brown Sauce, as far as I'm aware. This was, I think 48% Zap. So, okay, not in the greatest score, but it's very in the middle, isn't it? So what's this all about? Well, the story is very short and sweet for this one. So I'll give you the story because it's a paragraph, and so we can go through that, can't we? The evil alien Snake brothers, Jim and Quentin. Okay, Quentin Snake. Okay, I'm sensing that's a name for another industry altogether, I think. But there you go.
Jim Snake.
Jim and Quentin Snake, the Snake brothers. Anyway, they've overrun our top secret undersea base, Atlantic 5. As the pilot of the amazing prototype submersible, the Shark, you have been chosen to liberate the base from reptilian hands. Reptilian hands is the... they're the Snake brothers.
Is he brother to amphibian hands?
Yeah, they're the German reptilian brothers, yeah. I am reptilian Hans. Anyway, so there's 3 levels to crack in this game. Level 1 is there's some reactors by some heavy machinery that you've got to destroy. Level 2, you've got to explore the level and find the entrance to the Snake Brothers' lair. That sounds like a euphemism waiting to be done now, doesn't it? Come on, baby, you can find my Snake Brothers' lair any day. Anyway, enough of that.
Enter the lair of the snake.
The lair of the white worm. And then level 3, you're in the lair itself. On entering this level, you'll notice that one of the Snake Brothers, Jim, has escaped. Your autopilot and combat computers will kick in at this point. You can sit back and watch Quentin while he gets what he rightly deserves. No. That ain't good. That ain't good, that. All right, so let's look at the game then. So Cybernaut. I'm sorry, did I say Cybernaut? I meant Task Force. No, I didn't mean Task Force. I meant Shark. Sorry, Shark. In this game, you control your Shark submersible, presumably underwater, although you would never know.
No,
because. Could be in space, as you traverse the complex undersea base, Atlantic 5, avoiding death and shooting at things that seemingly has no impact on half of them whatsoever. Following a simple title screen with a watery Wibble DO16 effect on the logo and some decent if whiny music, you can read some credits and press fire to start, which you will no doubt be keen to do by this point, see if your $2.99 is well spent. The graphics are a mixture here of medium sort of res pixel and high res characters for the backgrounds, and then some multicolour sprites dotted about to sort of have the enemies on. I have to say, all of this does look nice. Some lovely attention to detail here. Give the game a far more expensive look than the budget price would dictate.
Yes.
Does look pretty much exactly like Cybernoid, right down to your Shark vehicle. Yeah. Indeed, that isn't where the similarities end either. This is a flip screen game like Cybernoid. You can explore this, unlike Cybernoid, where you can only go from one screen to the next. And it kind of also plays like Cybernoid, minus the collecting enough stuff to sell at the end and get to the next level. That part isn't there, but everything else kind of the same, isn't it? It's a shoot 'em up in that vein. Your Shark submersible has a range of weapons, and those weapons are, for the uninitiated here, your craft is initially armed with a small phased plasma armor-piercing laser cannon, whatever, which may be upgraded, 20 wire-guided missiles, 10 high-power impact mines, and 10 bouncing bombs, and a partridge in a pear tree. Ooh. You can collect mines, missiles, bouncing bombs, plasma blasters, shield, extra energy, and high-power generators, which will speed up your craft. These objects are dropped by exploding enemy craft. Contact with enemy craft will result in energy drain. Doesn't it just as well? Anyway, so I said you've got a load of weapons that you can collect. You control all this with the joystick And it's a little odd. And what I would say is the controls will probably throw you if you weren't ready for it. Because, of course, you control all the directions except down.
Don't.
Because you
don't. It's annoyed the shit out of me.
Because you're constantly heading down unless you push up. Which I suppose kind of makes sense if you're underwater because you know the weight of your vehicle would, and assuming that you put lots of weights on it to drop you down there because volume of air, never mind all that, then the physics of it all. So your submersible will be constantly heading downwards unless you push up. You can go left and right. Pulling down changes your weapon system. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see where the problem might be with that?
Yes.
Tapping fire shoots your laser, and holding the fire button down is to activate your heavier weapon. Remember, the game is underwater, as I say, so you're always sinking down into the depths, always going down, down, down. You'll be attacked by a constant stream of really annoying enemies that are A, hard to destroy with your standard laser because you're not powerful enough, B, follow you around, and C, respawn all the damn time. If you're not being hassled by floating enemies, there are also missiles which you can only avoid or blow up with a better weapon that will launch at both inconvenient and impossible moments, as well as an assortment of underwater things that will eventually wear down your limited energy and destroy you. If you do blow them up, some of them will drop those upgrades that I've already mentioned, and you can collect those, which will upgrade stuff, I guess, and speed ups and things. You won't really be able to control any of that, but you can get them.
Yeah.
But it will also just help you burn through your energy more. You'll get a turbo speed boost, which will just instantly cascade you into the walls of an enemy and kill you pretty much instantly.
Yep.
And then if you do that, you lose it anyway. So, lose 5 lives, it's game over. The Atlantic 5 underwater base is something of a maze of pipes and throughways, some of which are blocked, some are dead ends. So you need to explore and find your way around. And that, as they say, is that. Follow the guidance in the instructions and you'll work through the levels and eventually win, I guess. This is a budget cybernoid that inherits most of the game's problems, principally the difficulty. This is horrifically hard and unpleasant. Controlling your shark is okay, I guess, if you get used to it. Annoying, though, because you'll constantly be changing weapons when you didn't mean to, because you will press down on the joystick because, you will. But you can, as maybe you could get used to it, I don't know. I found it just constantly challenging to do because I was always wanting to, when I pushed up and I wanted to move it around, my instincts were telling me to push down and I just didn't want to. Nope. And also because it controls the downward speed, you can't avoid things so easily, which is a real problem.
Yep.
But the end of spawning enemies, that you're underpowered anyway to deal with them, and you're generally slower than them as well, which means you're disadvantaged in this game immediately. Not only can you not blow things up, but you also can't control your descent, so you can't get out of the way of things even if you wanted to. That's just plain dumb. Yes, you start with a collection, albeit limited in supply of ammo, of more powerful weapons, but none of them seem of any use to you at any given point.
No.
And changing to them and using them, they're all generally useless.
Yep.
Add to that a maze that has lots of dead ends and really annoying instant attacks when you move on to a new screen, which is a real pet hate of mine. When you go into some of these screens, you're instantly attacked by missiles the second you enter them, which means you've got to either take a hit on your energy or die immediately because you've got no way of avoiding them because you can't get out of the way of them. Yes, you have a moment of invincibility when you respawn. By the time you do, more enemies will have respawned too, and you'll be dead very quickly because you can't shoot them because your bullets aren't powerful enough. It's a pity, really. All these graphics are really nice, actually, on the whole. I thought the background designs actually look really nice here. It's reminiscent of a lot of these games of this type that we've come across, but this did really look the part. Mm-hmm. Sound-wise, aside from the music at the start, which was okay, there are only in-game sounds which function for what they are, I suppose. Bloops, zaps, beeps, sci-fi sounds, insert shoot 'em sci-fi sounds. But if we're going to lean on Cybernoid and Cybernoid 2 as our sort of base level for this, they had the Jerome Tell music. So even if you didn't really like the game, there's that. Yeah. And Cybernoid 1 and 2 have amazing pieces of music for them. Not everyone's cup of tea, but amazing and better than silence or sound effects. So it's budget, all right, but it's way too hard to be any fun. I noticed the trainer version of this had 13 separate options for making the game easier. It may be worth activating some of those to try and equal the game balance out a bit so you could at least maybe play this and get a bit further into the game. We've seen that done in a couple of games that were now impossible. I think IO was one where one of our amazing patrons, I think it was Lee Dove, said, actually turn some of those on because it just balances the game out. Don't turn on the invincibility, but maybe give yourself a little bit of advantage around the edges because this game hates you from the get-go. You will never do it. It's just out to kill you at every opportunity. So maybe you can balance the odds in and make it a bit more equitable. But either way, as it stands, pretty game, impossible to enjoy it in any way, really, even at $2.99. 48%, I hate to say it, but I mean, maybe for the graphics, but I may have given it a bit less because there isn't a game you can enjoy in here. But what did you think?
Can't believe it's not Cybernoid. Let's stick that on it.
It is that, yeah. It is Aldi Cybernoid, isn't it? Aldenoid.
Yeah, absolutely. Little Noid. Cyber Little. Only
Cyber Little. Brilliant. Cyber Little.
Yeah, that's what it is. Only harder and more frustrating. It's a budget Cybernoid with a quarter of the design and twice the frustration. That's what this is. For £3, the presentation of this is good. Exactly like you said. I've pretty much written what you said. Nice sprite design. The level furniture looks good. The can't fault these visuals and stuff like that. But I don't like the controls, though. I want to move down and not just like gravity or whatever it is, the sort of just move me downwards. It feels annoying and painful. It feels frustrating. And I kept swapping weapons when I didn't want to. So that led to annoyances. What is more annoying and cheap is unavoidable enemies and missiles and enemies that take 100 hits to kill for no good reason. It's just
stupid.
Ridiculous. And like you said, you move onto a screen. And there's that one you just move up to that hole and there's a missile straight above you goes bang. You're like,
So I hate that. I hate that stupidity.
I understand. I get it. It's only got 3 levels. They've dialed the difficulty up as high as they could to make it feel like you know, to give you something. Otherwise, you'd run through this in about 10 minutes. But it just ruins what could have been a decent take on the Cybernoid style of game. Yeah. And that sort of style of game is not exactly something we've been inundated with either. No. I see you mentioned Task Force, which was a game we made, I think, was it before this? Did it come out? Well, it wasn't reviewed in Zapped.
No.
It looks very similar. I haven't played it, but it looked very similar. Yeah. In fact, I looked and there's a load of those Players Premier games that don't get reviewed in Zap. So maybe for a future date, we can maybe have a look at some of them. But so we've not been inundated with Cybernoid style games. No. It's not a sort of genre that's really took off, that kind of single screen sort of blaster and explorer thing. I mean, that kind of spaceship way. Maybe there was that Dan Dare 2 was a bit like it, but not loads of them. So okay, if someone could get it right and just dial the difficulty down a bit and design wise, but this just went the other way. It's like, no, just make it harder.
It's too easy. Too easy, I say.
Make the Snake Brothers harder.
That's what somebody must have had the conversation. Do you know what the problem with Cybernoid was? It was too easy.
It was, absolutely. You wait till they get a load of shark. It's got 48%. Maybe about right, maybe a little low because of the stupid difficulty. But I suppose for £3, it looks nice. It has something. It's an okay title screen piece of music, I seem to remember, which is okay.
It's all right, yeah.
But there is some decent art and sound to this, but it's the design. It's lacking. It's not lacking. It's tuned to be frustrating and horrible rather than enjoyable. And I'll never like that, no matter what the price or whatever. I'd rather go through it in 10 minutes. Go, that was a decent 10 minutes rather than I had a horrible 10 minutes.
2 minutes.
£3 though. I mean, you might have banged your head against this for a while and felt like you had your money's worth back in the day, but there's nothing to see in the here and now. Shame, really. This could have been all right. Some nice stuff, but stupidly hard.
Not to be.
No. No, it's not. The Shark Brothers or the Snake Brothers can do one, as far as I'm concerned. Here we go. That was Shark. No. Let's move on. We've still got one game left. Let's see how that fares. And that game is Footballer of the Year. No, sorry, hang on. Sorry, I mean Footballer of the Year 2. It's important that you notice that 2 at the end, because I think that's the difference. Just to sort of ruin this review.
No, I think you're exactly. I mean, I didn't know there wasn't any, so maybe you'll find them.
Way back in episode 49, we looked at Footballer of the Year, and just go listen to that. just go. Because I did. I was tempted to just cut and paste what we said about that game into this one. I was just like, well, but we go into a bit more detail now then anyway. Anyway, for those who cannot remember what we said about it, let me remind you. It's yet again by Gremlin Graphics, but the coder now is Scott Guest. He has only one other credit on Lemon. Another one, we're getting finding these games, but we never picked things out. This was Dark Fusion. He made a game called in 1989. It was never reviewed in Zap. It's joined our list of games that may be looked at in the future, perhaps. And it's got graphics and title screen by Paul Gregory. He worked on the Freescape games.
Okay.
So Driller and that lot. So this is a bit of a different turn of pace. And the music here is by Ben Daglish. Music.
I didn't hear any. Did I do something wrong?
Music. That's what I was thinking. There's that little jingle at one point. Is that it? Gosh, I don't know. Aside from some visual elements here, there's not a lot that has changed here from the first game, really.
No, there isn't.
And what has changed is generally for the worse. So when the game loads, all the chirpiness is gone from the first. I went back and played the first game. And one of the things we said in our review back then was, it's dead chirpy. It
was.
That was our overriding sort of comment on the first one. You can't deny the chirpiness. Everything's bouncy and chirpy. This is not. We have a deathly quiet game, just the bleeps and bloops of menu selections to warm our hearts. Nothing going on here. When the game loads, we can continue a save game or start a new one. Starting a new one allows us to put our name in. But here, you can only put your first name in, whereas the previous game asks for your surname as well. So already differences. Don't know why. Pick a skill level from 1 to 9. whatever that means. And then we can edit team names we wish, or simply pick one from the random assortment of teams for some kind of UK Super League, which includes Dundee, Liverpool, Swansea. What is this? I get it.
Made up.
Well, they're not made up. It's just obviously the real teams, but why? I don't know whether the same ones in the first game or not, I don't know. And we can also pick one about for an international side. And it's into the game, and we've got a very similar, only more C64 looking menu set up to what we had in the first game. Because the first game was all high res. Obviously, I think it was a Spectrum ported one. This one's got multicolour sprites or icons and what have you. So it looks a bit nicer. I'll give it that. We've got mostly the same options. It's got the football at the top where you can see your stats. And then if we go around clockwise, because we're in a circle, we have transfer cards where you can buy a transfer card and see if another team wants you to buy. We have save data. We have quick game. Then we've got the major difference to the first game. And this is pretty much one of the first major. There's two differences. One's in how the visuals thing on this bit. So this was what were called incident cards back in the first game. And they were kind of like the chance cards in Monopoly. Because obviously we've read that the first game was a board game before it got picked up and translated into a video game. So it had these kind of cards, which you could see would work in a board game style. But now we've got double or nothing cards, or double or nothing, not even cards, just a double or nothing. So here you can bet up to £500. You start off with 10,000, and you can win up to 4,000. And to do this, you must answer. You must have hated this. You must answer 3 football-related questions.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing.
I can't imagine how you got on. Who
badly?
I mean, it's a choice of 3, so at least you've just got to pick one of 3. But it's like questions like, Who did Tottenham beat in the 1971 FA Cup final?
I don't know.
I didn't think you would. Who did Liverpool beat in the 1986 FA Cup final? I knew that was Everton. I did actually get a lot of these questions right. I was like, where have I dug that from? But I kind of did. But anyway, it's still stupid. But before, it was like a kind of random chance cards. Now it's just, do you know anything about football? If you get them all right, you win the big pot. You can duck out after the first or second question and take the money. So it asks you, do you want to gamble? You've got to go to all 3. And if you get it right, then you're rewarded with a not very exciting view of a football game from above, with an attacking move playing out step by step with each successful question answered until they score if you get all 3 of them right. It's not very good. And it's not really like, oh, yeah, scored. It's just boring. This is boring. Finally, going clockwise around, we've got the stats globe where you can look at the league stats and your personal data for goals scored, etc., etc. In the middle of all this is a boot, and here is where the real action lies. It's the real action, Graham. When this is selected, the next game is played, and you get the chance to use some goal cards. This is exactly what it was in the first game. You can use up to 3, and these allow you to take an exciting part in the game and maybe score a goal or 3. You select these from an alphabetical grid for some reason. It's like there's an alphabetical grid from A, I think, what goes up to U, I think it is. And it's sort of 3 across, it's 3 down and 7 across, I think. I don't know why. But if you only got 10, then only the first 10 letters have got a star next to them, and you have to only pick A to K or something. And so you pick them, and then however many you pick, you get a chance. And then what happens next is when you press fire and you picked how many you want to do, you get an overhead view of the pitch, like a sort of wireframe view of the pitch. And then you get some lines sort of appearing across it, denoting the play of the ball. It's kind of like what you'd normally... This is more American football than football. It felt like to me, where plays are sort of planned out in American football. But here it's like the ball goes over to the thing and it'll go over to the right, it'll drop back. And then you're represented by a dotted line, and you kind of... you're supposed to end the move by running up to the ball and booting it into the goal. That's the whole point. So the whole point is you've just got to be at the right place at the right time to score, except you won't, because the keepers are foolproof. And
yes, they are. You
have to wait until you receive the ball to build up power. And by the time you do, the chance is gone. So, because you kind of collect the ball and then you stand there going, and then keep it in place and you're done for. And don't forget as well that some of the angles that you've got, it says to shoot at, can't be done because it's 8-way movement, because it's a digital joystick. So they want you to fire at like 75 degrees. And you're like, I can't do that. That can't be done. That movement cannot be done. Not that I could figure out anyway. So it doesn't work. This does not work. It's a pain in the ass. This should have just been really fast, kicking at the 8 ways, utilize the angle sort of thing. And as soon as you got the ball, just tap the fire button to boot it. Just slam the ball. Don't have this power building up. Stupid. Don't work. But once you've gone through them, it's back to the main menu. It's a top-down view. It's like that's slightly different from the first game, because that first game was that weird sort of front-on view to the goal where 2 badly animated players came running at you and you had to sort of hit it left or right.
No, that's right.
Here, that little bit presentationally is better. The visuals here are better, but it doesn't work. You can't play it. But one of the things I did note from the first game was that I hated it because it was preposterous and had stupid scores. Because this is it. That's it, really. That's your loop. You go back to the main menu. You might try another some more questions. You might go for a transfer. You go back to the game, and that's it. You just build up your stats. Boring. I didn't like the first one because it was preposterous, like I said. The first one was like 9-0 against Barcelona. I lost to some stupid thing like that. But I don't like this one because it's boring. It's so boring.
Yeah, it is.
They've managed to suck every ounce of possible fun and enjoyment out of the first game and added absolutely nothing bar a boring quiz. No one wants in a football game.
Nope.
I mean, some people might like football go, yeah, that's a bad city. Yeah, they won. Who cares? It's not a sequel, more of a boring redo of the first one, which wasn't great, but at least raised a smile with its nonsense, even if it was stupid. The first one was preposterous, and I didn't like it because of that. But thinking back on it now, I was like, maybe I was a bit harsh because it was just stupid. So I should have, but it made me realise that I hankered for the stupidity rather than the boringness. For this to be the sequel to that 3 years later, do nothing else with it, is just ridiculous. And what I think has happened here, the original, looking at it, only ever came out on the 8-bit machines. It never came out on the Amiga and the ST. So they've ported it. Yeah. I think this is a port. Yep. They've realised, so they've ported this to the Amiga and ST whenever. They've gone, we'll change that a bit because maybe there's some rights or something from the board game. They have to change it maybe or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
And they've changed it a bit and they've gone, that's different now. We'll just deport it back to the 8-bit machines. And probably those who got the first one will have moved on. They're a bit old now. They probably been playing it. We'll sell it to new people. But it's the same game. It's like that. We saw that pop quiz and then the other one, those 2 quiz games we saw, which were pretty much the same game as well. I had no idea why this exists. Just port the first one to the 16-bit machines and have done with it. Just do that.
Yep.
To call it a sequel, charge full price for this. This was £9.99.
Just ridiculous.
I don't get it. It's essentially the same game, bar a little bit of graphical difference in the football section. It's just wrong. Rubbish. And why does Ben Dalglish have a credit? There's no music.
Nope.
I was like, have I played the wrong game? What is this? Rubbish. Just, I didn't. This is a horrible, horrible back deported cash grab by Gremlin because it's the first game just with a quiz in it. Nah, rubbish. Awful. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't get why this is a sequel to the first game. It's not as good. It's got less features. It plays worse and it's dumb. Just play the first one. Neither of them are great games, but the first one's at least it's more fun and it's got music.
Yeah.
The weird icons in this. I think clearly somebody loved their FLD routines, didn't they? There's a lot of bouncing up and down in this with every time you select something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just lots of bouncing. I mean, if this was an attempt to simplify football, well, they already did that. So I guess I suppose it succeeded in that because they've made a stupid game even simpler, which was okay. If that was the plan, maybe it worked. But wasn't that the issue for the first game? Was that it was oversimplified and a bit dumb and a bit easy because it was just wasn't really football. It was just kind of everything but football, really. Everything around the edges.
Yep.
It just trod in the football, on the football pitch and then went back inside and took its boots off. I think. I don't know. I found myself looking at this and thinking, this is what you're pitching against Micropro Soccer and Emlyn Hughes and other football games that are rapidly coming on the Amiga as well.
Yep.
That, you know what? You really are stupid if you think that's going to earn you any credit. You can't just put a 2 on the end of a game and expect it to be 1 better. I'm afraid this is not 1 louder. This is not Spinal Tap and his amp. This was just nothing. This is the same game with less in it. So go and play the first one. By the way, this comes out on budget less than a year later. Yeah. So Lord. Wait a year if you're really desperate to play it.
Well, I'm pretty sure the original's on budget by now. Just go get that if you really want something like this.
So I mean, what I think it's reviewed. We'll be coming up against the review of the budget version, or at least it's in the budget version and budget reviews of Zapped at some point in the future, not far off. No. I mean, I didn't really like the first one that much, but I found it was an easier in than some of the other football games we'd played at that time. This is just go and play the first one. There would be no reason to play this. So no, rubbish, rip off.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. It's not a great half of games.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. So let's take a much needed break and we'll come back and we'll listen to some music. We'll be listening to the albums that came out in February 1990. Please stick with us. And we're back. We're back with the albums from February 1990. Such as they are. The number 1 album, Graham, all month. He's back. The man behind the mask. I don't know, it's not really. But seriously, he's back. Phil Collins, sodding month.
Yeah, he was 13 weeks at number 1 with that album, on and off. Yes. It's the best-selling UK album of 1990.
Why?
Be gone, demon.
The power of Christ. The power of Christ compels you.
The power of crust compels you. Crust.
It's just another day in paradise, Graham. It's just another day in paradise.
Rolling Stone only gave that album 2 stars.
That much?
I know. And yet there it is. Massive success. Phil Collins probably went to sleep on, ironically, very, very large, expensive duvet pillows, considering he's singing about homelessness at one point in all seriousness. But there you go. Hey-ho and all that.
Yeah, but seriously. Anyway, 4th of February, straight in at number 2, a bit of What You Fancy from the Choir Boys. I don't fancy this.
No. This was the debut album, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was. Debut album, yeah. Went gold, solid certified gold. That's a terrifying idea, isn't it, that went gold?
100,000 people, more than that, bought that in the UK.
They sold over 100,000 units, though only 20% of those worked. No, it's just the one that's got "Hey You" on it. We looked at "Hey You" the single, didn't we? Hey You, with that
what
stupid
can you
video.
do? Can't you stand by your man while
like
the other girls can? Horrible lyrics.
Just egg off.
You are not what I fancy, Choir Boys.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. Anyway, just straight up from just behind them, number 3, The Sweet Keeper from Tanita Tikaram.
Yeah, not my thing.
It's not your thing, is it? To be fair, I didn't mind the first album. I said that at the time. I listened to some of these singles off this. None of them rang a bell. I'd clearly I'd had my fill of Tanita Tikaram and walked off. I go, oh, that's good. I've had enough of that. My quota is full. I can take in no more of your stuff.
Tata Tanika or whatever. Tata Tanita. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't recognise a single one. I don't recognise I don't know another song she ever did. So there you go.
No, I didn't even know there was another album from her. So
she's done quite a few.
Or a collection of songs. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. She's going on quite a while. Number 5 is Vigil in a Wilderness of Mirrors by Fish. Look at that album cover. Look at it.
It's just shouts oozy, pretentious bollocks right in your face.
It's kind of ruined it though, because like at the bottom, there's like 5 faces, like there's 5 screens, and they're sort of like he's facing to the left, and he's 3/4 face on, 3/4 to the right, and then facing to the right. But then above it, there's just another one. It's just ruined it.
Yeah, it has ruined it. It totally ruined it. And they could have called the album "The Many Faces of Fish," which I think would have been a better album title, to be fair.
The fish facets.
Fish face.
Yeah, less pretentious. I do like though how it does cover all the brands of rock.
Yeah. They're trying to at least tick as few boxes they can. I feel,
including progressive rock, pop rock, hard rock, and folk music. Could I just call it folk rock?
You should have just called it folk rock, right? Folk.
Yeah.
They could have called it something fishy, couldn't they? There's loads of album titles that are better than that.
Vigil in a Wilderness of Mirrors. Yeah, absolutely. Fish Supper.
They just strikes me as the kind of cover that Spinal Tap had. Just a 2-word review. Shit sandwich. Or intravenous to Milo was one of those. It reminds me of that kind of stupidness. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh dear. Anyway, there's Fish. And he's lost in his wilderness of mirrors. Whatever that means.
Fish are fishy.
I've had enough of you.
There's no place for you here. Right, no more fish puns. Move on quickly. We could be here all night.
We could be. Number 17, Paradise Remixed by Inner City.
Yeah. Now, this is... okay. It's a remix album of songs they've already released. Presumably they released those unmixed in some capacity. So and then they've mixed them together. That's quite clever. It's quite clever.
Absolutely. That's thinking in Dobley.
It is. I think it should have been done down in Dabley. Yeah, definitely. In Dublin. No. Yeah, it's just the same songs in a different order, technically and on the album. So yeah, all right.
Yeah, there you go. And at number 50 is Cloud Cuckoo Land by the Lightning Seeds, the debut album.
It is their debut album. I don't know a lot about the Lightning Seeds, and I don't want to.
No. Well, I summed them up last time, didn't I? A lot of people like them, but nobody loves them.
Yeah. They're the nice biscuits of bands, aren't they? Inoffensive but dull.
Yeah, absolutely. And they fall apart at the mere sight of a cup of tea.
They do. They're just, nobody wants a nice biscuit, but you'll never say no.
Yeah, they're the ones that when you get the sort of assortment ones, you get the custard creams, the bourbons, even the shortbread, and the nice ones in those 4-packs.
Yeah.
The nice ones are always the ones that are left in the biscuit barrel.
Yeah, and the mysterious malted milk.
Everyone loves a good malted milk.
That has a little cow scene on it, doesn't it? It has a little a biscuit imprint of a cow scene. I'm sure that somebody within that factory is spelling out words in there, and there's probably some deep, dark puzzle you have to solve.
They want you to remind you where milk comes from.
Malted milk at that. They milk the biscuits for that one. Right, move on quickly.
Number 54 is Bernstein in Berlin, Beethoven Symphony No. 9 by Leonard Bernstein. This is to do with the Berlin Wall coming down, isn't it?
Yeah, they did it famously did a concert, didn't they? And that's the recording of it. So,
I think so, yeah. 11th of February, in at number 7 is Carved in Sand by The Mission.
And it's over to you.
I've booked tickets to go see them again. I'm going to see them again in September.
That's good.
They're on tour, so I'm going to Cambridge to see them. So that should be good fun.
That's good.
It is. I'm quite looking forward to that now. So I'm going to see that. Anyway, this is their third regular studio album, not to be confused with the second irregular album, which was the first chapter, which was a collection of B-sides and outtakes, or B-sides and stuff, and remixes. This was released in 1990. It was their second of 2 top 10 albums. It marked the return of Tim Palmer as producer. I sort of spoke about this when we did Butterfly in a Wheel the other week, and how he sort of brought the sound back of the sort of the dull soundingness of the Children album was gone to a more crisper, more rockier sound that they had in this. It's a good album. It is a good album. It's their last good album as far as I'm concerned. Anything after this, they kind of, I mean, it was going into the 90s. Goth was kind of over by now.
Yeah.
So they kind of went in they chased different directions for a while, a bit sort of shoegazery, bit sort of indie sort of style stuff, and they went a bit all over the place for sort of settling on what they are now, which is kind of a sort of bit of a rock band. But when you go see them, they basically just do all the stuff from the old, most of the stuff from the old 3 albums. That's why you go see them. But it is a good album. It's their last good one as far as I'm concerned. We'll get to Deliverance and Into the Blue and stuff later on, but it's a good album. If you like The Mission, then this is a good one.
What was the big single off Carved in Sand?
Well, it's either Butterfly on a Wheel or Deliverance.
Okay. Deliver Me. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Because I listened to the Children album recently.
Yes.
It's the one with Tower of Strength on it and Dream on it. Yeah.
Did you agree with my sort of production comments? It feels a bit muffled.
At the risk of offending you, I thought it sounded like Simple Minds on re-listen, which is the problem of the production, not necessarily a problem of the songs themselves, but they've got that, the big audio, the big sound that they have, such as they have it, it's got a Simple Minds quality to it. Whereas the other album that I listened to with the tracks, which wasn't this one, so it must have been another one, didn't sound anything like that. So, or at least it didn't sound the same as that. So maybe that's part of it. Big echoey, it just sounded like, if you imagine a big Simple Minds track like Don't You Forget About Me, that kind of...
I can see that. I can hear that a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. But it wasn't terrible. And Tower of Strength is still a good song, but...
Don't get me wrong. The Children is a good album. It's just muffled and quiet. Muffled.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. Well, I went straight from listening to that to listening to Field to the Nephilim. That was a strange changeover experience. It's like going from listening to Simple Minds do goth to actual goth. Yeah. Like proper echoey, big sound. Yeah. And, it was that one as well that's got that track that came on in Gulliver's that time. Gulliver's that time. You read me. That one that we were listening to, we were like, God, who's that? It was like proper hardcore goth. The crumbling was heavy with that one.
Yeah.
I digress, but yeah.
The flower usage was heavy.
It's long tracks on it that through that 11-minute opuses and each track's really long. It's good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but
it's very. They go for atmosphere, don't they? And
but that's not to take anything off this particular album by The Mission. I remember you really liking it at the time, way back in the day. So I know it's quite an important album for you. So.
Yeah, it's a good album. And songs like Amelia and stuff like that. Amelia's on it. Into the Blue, like I said, Belief.
Yep.
So good tunes. And number 10 is The Language of Life by Everything But the Girl.
Dreary album. That not very good.
I never liked Everything But the Girl.
No, I don't. And I don't like their Misery. And there's one song actually by them, which is called The 25th of December, which I do like. It's the only song by them I actually like. Really unusual for them. Kind of a sweet Christmassy melody type thing. The rest of the stuff seems to me dreary. This is their 5th studio album as well. You think they got good at it by now? But they've just got good at being dreary.
Number 18, This Should Move You by Mantronics.
Yeah, it probably did. Gary's kind of thing, really. Not my... It's all right.
Didn't move me.
No, it's all right.
Not for me. This one. Number 46. The Synthesizer Album by Project D.
I feel like this is an album that Gary might have liberated from a library at some point, or at least listened to from a library. Sorry,
he'll have seen the track listing and gone, "Good Lord, that's all my favourite tracks."
Yes, it's like the real thing. Only it's not.
It's not. So this is, like you've written, a nearly brand album full of nearly versions of classics like tracks like Eve of the War. I mean, the track listing for this is Eve of the War, Chariots of Fire, Crockett's Theme, Oxygen, Love Theme from Midnight Express.
Good track, that.
Moments in Love.
Not so much.
Pulstar.
Yeah, okay.
Equinox. I'll Find My Way Home. Autobahn. As he finds his way home down the Autobahn. Belitis. I don't know some of these tracks. It's like the first four, and then they lost it. Magnetic Fields. I know the Jar ones, but it's got Telstar at the end.
Well, you've got like do 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 do. You've got Autobahn. That's Kraftwerk, obviously.
Yeah.
Ban. But there's no vocals in it.
It's all wrong. Those of these are wrong.
How can you have Autobahn without ban at the Autobahn? If you don't have that in it, does it have that in it? I don't remember having that. Certainly, I'll Find My Way Home is famous for its kind of high pitched. It's Vangelis, isn't it? John and Vangelis. I'll find my way home. It's really high pitched. Not that one though.
Yeah. It's an album you'd hear in Tate in the 80s whilst buying a cheese top, can of Coke and a bag of crisps for 60p.
It is.
That's literally what it is. But I listened to some of these. The version of Chariots of Fire on this is fucking awful. I mean, it's absolutely dreadful. And the drums on Oxygen, it's like, just turn them up a bit in the mix. No, they're not this loud. Just turn them up.
Well,
no.
It's called the Synthesizer Album, but they're not saying which synthesizers they used. And I'm guessing not good ones.
Some ones you blow down.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this was probably originally on, some of these would have been on a Roland Jupiter 8 or a Fairlight, something expensive. I suspect the synthesizer albums put together on more of the Bontempi range.
So
or the Casios.
Our friend had, he used to come to some of our band practices. That one.
That. Yeah, exactly. And there's a place for that. There's a place for those early Casio ones, but not this place.
Not this place, no. On to better things. In at number 56 is The Real Thing by Faith No More.
Oh, yeah, big old album, that.
Epic. Last week.
We did.
This was the third, I think this was the third studio album. I thought this was the second.
No, third.
So this saw the band had sort of got rid of Chuck Mosley, who was the original singer. And got in Mike Patton from Mr. Bungle. And so Epic was released. Now, just as a quote from the producer here, just to say what we sort of spoke about it, but what Mike Patton did was, so this is from the Wikipedia, but it's a quote from an interview with the producer. So all the music was written before Mike joined the band, which had gotten rid of the original singer Chuck Mosley, and the tracks were either in pre-production or being recorded when Mike came in. And when he'd ask if he could make a section longer or different, the band would say, "No, this is it. You'd have to do it this way." So Mike Patton wrote every lyric and melody to that record over a 10 to 12 day period.
Wow, that is
stunning,
crazy.
Because he's 19 or 20 and just created all those themes, all those lyrics, everything like that, and pull it out the end, put together an incredible record. I mean, it is phenomenal when you think about it. Just like, no, these are tunes, fit lyrics to them. You've got 10 days, 10, 12 days. Okay, right. Crazy stuff. But it's such a great album, this. Such a great, great album. This and Angel Dust are fantastic albums of the early 90s. Two of my favourite rock albums of all time. Yeah,
it's a very good album.
So good.
Interestingly, I read that the single release of Epic was the record company's last attempt to get a single out that would launch them properly.
Oh, really?
And so they said basically, we'll release this one, we'll record a video for it. If this one doesn't make it, then that's it. We're over. It's done. We're done. That's it. We're not putting any more money behind it. Luckily, of course. Well, it was a rather large hit, wasn't it?
Epic was epic.
Even if some fish were harmed in the making of that video.
Quite possibly, yes. And then obviously you went on to then you straight after this you had From Out of Nowhere, don't you?
Yep.
Which is another great, great tune. Such a good album. It's such a great album. Number 74, Paradise by Ruby Turner.
Not sure it's my thing, that. In fact, I know it's not.
No. Jamaican contemporary R&B singer Ruby Turner. I've already switched off.
She did a lot of famous backing singing gigs and stuff, but this is a solo career. Okay, she's a very good singer, and really good, but not my thing, R&B of this type.
No. 18th February, and at number 54 was Miss Saigon by the original London cast.
Yeah, well, if you're going to listen to Miss Saigon, listen to it by the original London cast. That's what I say.
Not my cup of tea, though. Too overblown.
No, I've never liked Miss Saigon as a musical. No. A stage musical, big blown up thing. You either like those sort of things and you don't. I generally don't like them. So
I seem to remember that there was this and Les Miserables around at the time with the two sort of big sort of stage musicals sort of doing the rounds. And I remember lots of people in sixth form listening to these albums.
Yeah, they sort of had a resurgence in the early to mid 90s, didn't they? There was loads of them suddenly appeared.
Well, it was Stingy. It was Andrew Lloyd Webber. It was Andrew Lloyd Webber in that bloody Chess video. Oh, I know him so well, and that nonsense.
Chess. No, it's a really crap musical as well. But Cats and things like that have been around for years. Never see the film Cats ever, by the way. Just putting that out there. Just don't do it. I'm just not. They're not my thing. Although my wife, she loves the musicals, stage musicals, stuff like that. So it's probably up her street, but certainly not mine.
Yeah, not mine either. Number 6 is Waking Hours by Delamitri.
Second album by them, and they can keep it. Thanks for your second album. It's lovely. Keep it.
I'm sure it is lovely. It's a record you could take home to meet your mum.
You could, yeah. Even with its fringe. It meet your fringe, and then it would meet in 10 minutes later.
This is Del.
It's all gone dark.
This is Del. Dimitri will be here in a moment. At number 10, I don't know what this is, but Running Free Sanctuary by Iron Maiden.
I tried to find out what it was. All I could sort of come up against was some kind of 10-year album collection, and maybe it's part of that. I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery. It's Running Free is obviously an early single of theirs. It's it's Paul Di'Anno, Iron Maiden, isn't it? I'm running free, I'm running free. It's off the first album.
Yeah.
So what? I don't know. It's some kind of release by Iron Maiden, early Iron Maiden, that. But for sure, it's going to be clunky, isn't it? Always clacky.
It's going to be clacky and heavy on the bass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And subtle on the rhythm change.
Oh, yes.
Number 21 is Walk On By Sybil.
Yeah, it's called Sybil everywhere else but in the UK. We think we looked at the single, didn't we? Walk On By.
We said it was rubbish.
Yeah, so no, just avoid it. It's a load of covers, I think, anyway. So there's some famous people on it, but
Yeah. Number 40 is The Comforts of Madness by the Pale Saints.
What is it?
I don't know. I listened to some of it and I was like, it's very shoegazery.
Is that what it is? Is it? Yeah, all the noise, really. Yeah, it wasn't my thing. No.
Yeah, a bit shoegazery for me. And no, not my cup of tea. I listened to a few of the tracks, but no, not for me. Number 54 is Swagger by the Blue Aeroplanes.
Never heard of them.
No.
Never heard of them. No. Probably a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell. What were they? I didn't listen to this one. What was it? Was it any good?
No, not really. It's kind of a rocky poppy nothingness, really. Just, if you read the description, members of the art objects joined with the seagulls to form this, whatever. No.
These are just words. No one's written this. This is made up.
They consisted mainly of former members of Art Objects with the addition of Nick Jacobs, former guitarist and vocalist of Southampton band The Exploding Seagulls. You'd never heard of them.
Has Chris Morris written this?
Yes, and they went on tour with Badly Worn Hat.
This for the first one was followed by Beat Songs.
Yeah, no.
Number 62, Stay Stick by the Cramps.
Yeah, we looked at the Cramps last time with that song, didn't we? Yeah, I don't like them. That's not my thing.
Is it rockabilly type stuff? Is it rockabilly?
Yeah, total rockabilly. Yeah, with Nick Knox, was it, and somebody else? I can't
Poison Ivy.
Yeah, Poison Ivy. That's it.
Yeah. Not a lot of album stuff going on this month. There's a couple. Mission and Faith No More. That's all good, but not a lot else. 25th February, number 10, Women in Uniform and Twilight Zone, again by Iron Maiden.
Again, I think it's part of this collection that was released in whatever capacity. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing in the albums chart though. That's the weird thing.
I don't know. It's really strange. They are from a compilation, so it's like a 10-box album thing. I don't know. I don't know.
And at number 11 was Lloyd Cole. With Lloyd Cole, or by Lloyd Cole.
He's on his own.
Lloyd Cole.
Yeah.
He's lost the commotions.
He has, yeah. He's gone full solo. He's gone just Cole.
He's gone full peaceful. There's no commotion now. His gigs are really dull. If you thought that was too boring, then you could have had number 14 and you could have had Happiness by The Beloved.
Just a load of
Yeah. No. Just, I don't like The Beloved. Never did.
Pretentious knobheady knobbedy knobs. Don't like it. Rubbish.
At number 31 is Extricate by The Fall.
Oh, I tried with it, and it's just a bit loud and crashy and not very good. It felt badly produced. It just didn't feel very nice to listen to.
No, they never do the Fall albums. They're unpleasant.
Yeah.
They're unpleasant to listen to. It sounds exactly like I thought it would. Finally, there you go. That's it. Round just one more. London, Warsaw, New York by Basia. Or Basia.
Basia, yeah.
Second solo studio album by Polish-born singer-songwriter Basia. Beisia, released in February 1998. It spawned one of Beisia's biggest hits, Cruising for Bruising.
Popular, that. Yeah, she was quite the looker in her day, wasn't she, old Beisia?
She was.
Yeah, not so much now, but she was then.
It was then, yeah. But there you go. It's not a banger month for albums. 2 good ones, I suppose, and Fish.
Simply Fish. What? Something fishy, simply fishy. Fish on a dish, dishy fishy.
Fish dish, fish sandwich, fish supper, fish and chips.
Fish supper. The Last Supper would have been a pretentious title for him, wouldn't it?
The Last Fish Supper would have been better.
Sun, Sea and Chippy Tea. He writes himself for him. Fish and chips. Come on. He should have found a partner to do his, acoustic folk diddly diddly. That guy could have been chips. It could have been fish and chips. I'm there. I'm here for you, Fish. If you ever need marketing advice.
If you did a synth album, it could be Fish and Chips.
That's a techno album, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fish meets techno. Fish and chips. I'm digging it.
Chips. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Fish could have been in Tron with that name.
Folk techno.
Can you imagine a version of Tron where Fish plays Tron? He's not Tron, he's Fish.
No. I don't want to think about that.
With his greasy floppy hair on. Oh, no, you're not ready for it. No, he'd get beamed in by the master control, then he'd get beamed out again. No, I'm putting you in the game, Fish. Oh, wait a minute, no, I'm not.
Where have you been? Some say you went nowhere and we came from somewhere. I don't know.
I'm going to make an album title. That's an album title waiting to happen. Back in the game you go.
I've done it again. Back out. Tron Fish.
Yeah, Fishy Tron. Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's your albums. I hope you're happy.
God, we wish it wasn't.
We really do. We're going to take a quick break, go away, take another quick break. We'll come back. We still have 2 games to get through. Let's hope they may be better than what we had in the first part. And well, 2 games to go, and then we're halfway through February 1990. The first one of those is over to you, Graham, for the oddly titled Blue Angel 68.
Well, it's Blue Angel 69 for a start.
Oh, is it 69? I've got 68. 69.
Yeah, I don't know why you've got that. Blue Angel 69.
Well, it actually makes more sense, I suppose, considering the content here.
Yeah. This was published by Magic Bytes. So this is Magic Bytes. You remember Magic Bytes? They're the one with the really weird, crappy logo. Yeah. Copyright was Myco Partner, coded by Stefan Harms. The graphics are by Michael Detert, Stefan Harms. The title screen, Michael Detert, and the musician, Thomas Detert. Thomas Detert's a good musician, actually. I think he's ex-Ample. I think that's what his code name is. Something like that. More famous for Gordian's Tomb, actually, than this one. Gordian's Tomb was, I think, 40 minutes long, as I said.
Wow.
So this is a bit of an odd thing, isn't it? I'm going to read you the scenario, and then I'll go for the aim of the game, because I can do a more prescient version of that, because the scenario is a bit short. And it says, and I quote, "The angel offers you her cold metallic hand and leads you into her labyrinth of sensations. She's the symbiosis between the high-tech perfection of shiny chrome robots and the eroticism of first-class stamps." No, sorry, I misread that. First-class pin-ups. Measure your intellect in a fascinating game of strategy with this all-female robot. But watch out, she has a soul of steel and a heart that beats to an electronic rhythm. Real cool. Not a breath of life in her whole being. And if you stare too long, you'll see nothing but your own reflection in those chrome bodies.
Someone's got a bit of a fetish, I think.
You think?
Someone wants the synthesis ending from the end of Mass Effect 3.
I mean,
badly.
What curious, odd thing this is. A puzzle/board game/robotic voyeurism fusion.
Absolutely. This gets the adult filter on Lemon 64 as well, doesn't it?
It does. And there was a sequel to this. Did you know? And the sequel was probably less subtle because it's called Sexy Droids. Anyway, there you go. Just in case you didn't know that. That's on the Amiga only, that one. How do you explain this thing? I guess this falls under 8 or 16-bit erotica. And I suspect the 16-bit versions with better and no doubt more detailed graphics would certainly have caught the randy eyes of some gamers back in the day, robots and stuff. It follows a similar path with erotic games, I guess, like Sam Fox's Strip Poker, that they've trodden that path before. This game is a kind of clever puzzle game on the surface with a kind of catchphrase Mr. Chip-style reveal of erotic robots underneath. Ooh la la. Erotic robots. Let's talk about the game, shall we? This can be played 1 or 2 players. It's you versus the computer, and there are a bunch of options you can switch on or off on the intro demo-like screen. It all looks very demo-like, doesn't it? Very demo.
It does, yes.
The main option menu that there is offers 7 options, which can be selected by moving about the arrows with the joystick, which you can control on screen. Option 1 and 2 serves to define the 2 players. You can choose between joystick in port 2, port 1, 3 playing, skill levels, which is easy, medium, and rock hard. You can play against the computer or against another person, or you can have the computer play against itself. Why would you do that?
Why?
You can. Oh. I guess somebody's always going to win, and that means you're going to always see the shiny robot ladies, aren't you?
Chromium.
You can, of course, set the computer's skill level as easy, but after that, you could win 2 games succession. You have to then choose to go to medium and go further up and complete the 6 games. There's 10 levels in total for this, or 10 screens. I don't know how I define that part, really. And so that's kind of how it sort of works. Now, I'll explain how the game sort of works. So that bouncing logo and raster bar thing that you see at the beginning, that's very demo scene inspired, isn't it? When your first title screen appears. I mean, it's raster bar's logo at top. It's a demo almost. It almost looks like one. Some nice music, though, which accompanies that, I thought. And there's some movement and stuff like that. Joystick, you use the joystick to initialize the options, move things around, click and get things going and start things off. When you do get through that and you're ready to face the thrill, as it were, the game screen it starts to split into 3 boxes. The main box on the left is your grid of numbers, which includes positive and negative numbers, and I'll explain all that in a moment. The top right is a nicely shaded robot person, likely topless, but in this instance of the image, it's not too revealing at this point, so you can just chill your oil. And the bottom right is the player's score and turn indication. If you have elected to go first, or you've chosen the options in this way, you'll see a diamond on the number grid, which is your cursor. Each row and column has a positive and negative number on it, which is indicated by its colour. And you must move your cursor horizontally and select a number, either positive or negative. The numbers go from 1 to 11 or 1 to 10. 1 to 11 or negative 1 to negative 10.
Yeah.
So you can choose sort of positive or negative, which will then, once you've selected that will either add it or minus it from your score and will disappear from the screen. The number you select is important for 2 reasons. Firstly, that will either increase or decrease your score according to the plus or minus factor, as I've explained. Secondly, where you select becomes the starting point and column for the opposing player to make their selection. They will then, assuming you have chosen to go first, make a similar selection, but only vertically or within the column. So depending on whether you choose to be player 1 or player 2 will depend on whether you are choosing from columns or rows. But I think player 2 can only choose from rows, and I think player 1 can only be columns. So however you choose to organize it, that's how it works. So when you've selected it, you've added the score. That becomes the starting point for the opposing player to make their selection when they do that. And assuming that you've chosen that particular route, they make a similar selection, but only vertically or within the column. They will choose a number, their score will increase or decrease, and that tile will vanish. And then your turn will happen with you only being able to choose from the row and horizontal choices. So as you sort of choose the tiles and the numbers, the next person can only choose from the numbers in that particular column or row. Mm-hmm. So it goes on and on and on. Now, some of those numbers are going to be pluses and some of those are going to be minuses. So as each turn happens, the number of tiles decreases and your score will either increase or decrease as you gain points from the tile number, or crucially, because you are forcing your opponents to select lower or negative numbers. So you might have 38. You make your opponent, by being clever and canny, choose a negative number, which would reduce their score. So therefore you gain an advantage. And that's how you kind of play the strategy part of this.
Yes.
Remember, your opponent is doing the same thing as you as well, and they're trying to outfox you. So you need to be a few moves ahead and start to think strategically. As with each passing turn, the number of scoring options and tactics changes. So there's less numbers. You've got to think, actually, if I go and choose that particular number there and I expose that column, that means they could actually get that high ranking number, which is going to leave me exposed. So you've got to actually think quite strategically in this game. It's quite clever for that.
Yes.
So I thought this was quite a nice puzzle game, really. That I quite like that idea. Mm-hmm. And I would see this as being a massive success on mobile platforms if it isn't already. I didn't go into the look, but I imagine if this would be huge on a mobile platform. I mean, it's a very proto feel of a few mobile games in the way it looks like a kind of Candy Crush almost kind of look to the grid. And if those tiles started sliding up and down and there was a few extra factors and things like that in there, and you could flip numbers around, you could start to see how this could very easily fall into a King game or one of those kind of, Bejeweled type idea. Maybe not Candy Crush, maybe Bejeweled, something like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's the puzzle game. Let's talk about the Robo Boobs then.
That's why you're all here.
That's why you're all here.
It's after 10 o'clock. You can get a little blue.
With Robo Blue. Well, as the tiles vanish from the grid, they gradually reveal an image underneath. A bit of a leg here, bit of sexy robot shoulder there. As you whittle down the number tiles, so the image is revealed, and if you win, well, the grid is removed, and boom, saucy robo-erotic stuff that would even raise Robocop's eyebrows. Or his oil temperature, I don't know. Maybe his pistol. I don't know how
my targeting computer is off.
You'd be the judge. There's 10 levels of this, so there's 10 saucy images to reveal.
10,
a full 10. The graphics in the game are good. Robo nudity aside for a second, the look and feel and the logo and the general tiles and the gameplay art is actually pretty good. The tiles are clear. The UI and other indicated art is very well shaded and well grown and well drawn. It all looks nice. The presentation's pretty good too. It's very demo scene inspired, but it is colourful and it has some nice value. It adds some nice value to the game. As far as the naked robots go, well, the C64 version is not as clear as its 16-bit counterpart, so that is about as good as 8-bit robo boobies are going to get on the C64. They don't look bad, I suppose, and they add a kind of extra dimension to the game in their own way, I suppose. Should this be called Robotica? I don't know.
Yeah, very good, yes.
Anyway, I found myself liking a few things here. The immediacy of the game and its simple setup means there isn't a lot of confusion about what's required and what you have to do. Indeed, it doesn't take long to get into this, and the challenge is both rewarding mentally and interesting mentally. I'm talking about the puzzle game here. The game runs well and fast, I thought, and the multiplayer, difficulty, and other options give this some scope to play this in sort of different ways. 10 levels isn't a lot, though. And I wonder why this isn't more kind of procedural, so that, maybe it could, if it's drawing numbers out of tiles, maybe there's some mathematical formula that you could use to draw those grids. But then I thought, actually, that must be crazy difficult and challenging to do to make it fair for each one. So maybe you can't do it that way. Also, you've got big full screen images of robo boobs to think about as well. So you got that. This is on disc and it's multi-load, which I think is probably more to do with the erotic images of robots flashing their rivets than the game graphics per se, but hey-ho. The price tag is a bit heavy, though. $9.99 for this. This scored 65% in Zapped as well. I guess they need to keep it at this price point. I guess maybe the adult game being what it is, maybe it needs to look a bit. You've got to pay adult prices for that.
You've got to pay for those robots. Don't come cheap.
The home of this game is on the 16-bit versions and above, because that's where you're going to get the fidelity. In a similar way that it had a bit of nudity in Defender of the Crown on the Amiga, which famously everyone was like, ooh la la. Obviously the 64 took it that stage further to blocking it out a bit. There's a competent, well-produced, and actually quite playable, enjoyable puzzle game here that I think could, if somebody wanted to, be quite a thing on modern mobile platforms. I think there's a really good mobile game sat right there waiting to be made. Even if it wasn't erotic images underneath, if it was something else that revealed Mr. Chip style, there's a game under there without a doubt. Touch screen, tap the tiles, sort of that tactile game. It's a very proto-mobile. I get that. You could take away the robo nudity for me, actually, and add in more grid challenges, extra points, special options, moves, exploding bombs, radius things that you often get in these kind of games with that kind of grid and numerical view. This is a more approachable end to something like a Sudoku type game. And for maths games that generally are kind of off-putting for most people, this is actually quite a nice in and quite a simple logic to it. And I thought that was really to its credit. And you don't need to dress that up with a load of robo-boobs, but they did, I guess. It is what it is in that respect. So you could take that out and enhance the core game for me, because the core game is actually pretty good. You don't need all the other stuff. But maybe the weird Robotica is the thing. Maybe there's some teenagers waggling their joysticks with glee when they see some saucy topless cyborg. I don't know. I'm not sure that it pops my fuses, to be honest. But so that aside, I did enjoy the puzzle game here. It's actually pretty good. But the price tag's heavy, and I'm not into robo nudity. But were you?
No, not really. I'm not sure about the robot pics. No.
I mean, they had a sort of tonality, a sort of a cool blue robo-y chrome tonality to it, maybe, but they're unnecessary, really.
The Amiga pictures in the top right and the playing screens is full on robo boobs.
Yeah, there's no mistake in that. They're flesh boobs with robo bits.
Obviously, the C64 version is the tone. Yeah, we didn't have enough pixels to draw it downwards enough.
No.
But anyway, this game, it's good. Once I figured out how to play this, because at first I was just jabbing around, I didn't read the instructions or anything, and then I went, oh, hang on a minute, this is how it works. Oh, this is easy. But then it's that thing, isn't it? Oh, it's easy to understand, hard to master. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed quite a few rounds of playing this.
Yeah, same.
If you set the timer to a low amount as well, which I think works better, it means you got to think fast.
Yeah, I did that.
If you have unlimited time, it gets a bit, you're like, oh, I forget, it gets a bit lost. But like speed chess and things like that, if you put a timer on it, 15 seconds, it's just long enough for you to sort of plan out maybe 2 moves ahead. And you go, I've got to move. Damn. Okay, take that one. So it's good. It's simple to grasp, fun to play. You can generally start to predict what the computer will do, but beating it is still quite the challenge. So it beat me quite often.
And you can hide the cursors as well, can't you? So you could have a completely, so you know idea where they're going to go. That kind of thing as well.
The music's a bit odd.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's a bit weird. It's all right. The visuals are well drawn, though, and it all works as it should do. I imagine in 2 players it'd be pretty good fun as well, because you're a bit more unpredictable. You try and outthink each other and taking unexpected squares, try and throw your opponent off. That kind of unexpectedness that a human player would put. But yeah, 9.99. I'm not sure about the longevity of it. I did think that this is a good concept, because I thought these kind of puzzle games, and it reminded me of like just pen and paper games like Squares as well.
Same
so I imagine if you drew a grid, 10 by 10 grid, and filled it with numbers, minus numbers and thingy numbers, and just played it, broke them down and used a pencil or something, then you could just cross them out. You could easily this would easily work because it's a very simple concept. Yeah. And I imagine that's exactly where it started, and then the robo boobs appeared for reasons I don't know. It's an interesting concept. This works well. I didn't mind this. I thought this was pretty enjoyable for a game, but You could lose the backgrounds and stuff. You didn't really need them. I don't think it needs to be revealing anything. You just need to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't know. It's got to justify that $9.99 somehow, I think.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, Blue Angel 69. Weird name, weird concept, but a good little, not really a puzzle game, is it? It's sort of I don't know what it is.
Like a mathematical challenger sort of game,
like
isn't it?
It's like squares in a puzzle game, is it? Where you do
like
Connect
Four,
the lines.
It's that sort of idea.
Yeah, it's that. It's kind of this sort of competitive sort of strategy game, I guess.
Yeah, strategy game, actually. Yeah, it is a strategy game, isn't it?
Good game. Yeah, good. Decent enough. There we go. That's Blue Angel 69. We quite liked it. And we didn't like it for the Robo Boobs before anyone says anything.
No.
Let's move on. We still have one game to get through this week.
Deep breaths.
8 deep breaths. This is Chase HQ. This was £9.99. Remember these arcade conversions that no one really wanted end? Who wants this? Who wanted this? Maybe people really liked it, but I don't really remember this at all. Promotion. It's a promotion game. Great. Promotion. Home of quality and ethical business practices. We've got the C64 port of Chase HQ. Known originally in Japan, I think it's Chase Headquarter. Give it its full name.
Okay.
It was originally created for the arcade by Taito. Good old Taito. Taito in 1988. According to the wiki, this was seen as a kind of sequel to 1987's Full Throttle, which they made as well.
Okay.
Never heard of that either. Commercially, it did well. Upon its release in arcades, Game Machine listed Chase HQ on their 15th of November 1988 issue as being the second most successful upright arcade cabinet of the month in Japan.
Well, I never.
It went on to become Japan's highest grossing dedicated arcade game of 1989.
Wow. Okay.
In Japan. There you go.
It was big in Japan.
In the United Kingdom, it was a hit in the arcades, becoming the top coin-op arcade game at one point.
Wow.
This was a big one. I never really knew anything about this. It was not one. I know I heard of it, but I didn't think it was this big. Such a popular game then. It surely deserves a quality conversion with no expense spared. Surely. And surely Ocean are just the company to give us that.
Yeah.
This was developed by Teak Software. Heard of them before. And with coding duties being taken by Bill Cornt and Peter Hickinson. We've heard of them before. They did Continental Circus and Chubby Gristle.
They did. Oh, gosh.
Seems the obvious choice then to give them another racing game, seeing as how well they did with Continental Circus. The music, such as it is by Matt Furness. There's an okay loading screen to this, but the way they've drawn the faces made me think they look more like Muppets than humans.
I did, yeah.
It's got that Muppet sort of Sesame Street round face.
Yeah, Muppet mouth. Yeah, it's round head and Muppet mouth, yeah.
That's the quality. That's where the quality ends, because it's got the Ocean loader. So you're all right. And that's okay. As soon as the game loads, though, the horror of this game is there for all to see. It's there. And there's no way to sugarcoat any of this. This is woeful. Woeful. It's got 53%. I'd held that back. Keep that in mind. That's kind of average, isn't it? 53%. That's halfway. That's a 5 out of 10. Just keep that in mind. Before we get to the glory of the game here, what exactly is Chase HQ? Well, you play Ray Brody and Tony Gibson.
Gibbo.
Brody and Gibbo. Not to be confused with Crockett and Tubbs. No, sorry. No.
No copyright infringement or IP infringement of any kind. Thank you very much. This is clearly Gibbo.
It's clearly Gibbo and not Tubbs. And it's Brody, not Crockett. You are part of New York's Chase HQ, and it's your job to chase down escaping criminals and just ram them off the road, basically.
Yep.
You have 60 seconds to find them, and then a further 60 seconds to batter them into submission, and that's it. It's a 3D racer in the style of Continental Circus and all those kind of things, and all those sprite scaling machines in the arcade. It's one of those with heavy sprite scaling, with sort of banks of sprites that come at you like the clouds in the sky are banks. And you've seen this in Afterburner and all these kind of games.
Loads of them around at that time, weren't there?
Yeah. So it's one of those. So let's get to the C64 version. There's no title screen to speak of. Instead, we get a rolling demo of the game. And so the game. The window is split into 3 sections here. There's a top bar across the top. It's a line with red, white, and blue on it. So it's supposed to be your siren when you find a perp. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. At the bottom is the UI. So it's got an empty square on the left that will display a portrait, a badly drawn portrait of who might be speaking to you. It's got your score, the time remaining, so that's the 60 seconds counting down, although each second is a lot longer than a normal second because this doesn't run very fast.
Game time.
You got speed, your distance to the perp, and your present gear. And I guess the UI at the bottom, it doesn't look too bad. It's okay because it's all right. There's also a message bar above this where you get info from Nancy at HQ. She tells you what to do. And you get sort of messages as well from Tony, although he just keeps telling you to push it harder, push it harder, push it harder. And I was like, stop it. Stop it,
All
Tony.
Right, Tony. Okay, Tony.
Gibbo. Calm it, Gibbo.
Calm down, Gibbo.
Then we've got the game window. And then essentially what we have here is a Spectrum game with C64 sprites stuck on it.
Yeah.
There's no other way to describe this. That's it. We have a green and black landscape with a green road. It's pale green as well. Pale green. Black and green rumble strips on the side. Just two colours. Black roadside furniture that is, you can see through, like Spectrum games. And black and green raster bars out to the sides on the landscapes. Try and give some sense of speed at the side. That's what you've got. Yep. It's that layout what we normally see in a lot of games, but it's just green and black.
Yep.
The distant city is blue and black. There's two blues. There's a sort of light blue at the bottom and a dark blue at the top, and black buildings. It's just dreadful. It is dreadful. It looks awful. It looks genuinely awful. Pressing fire gets us into the game, and we get a message from Nancy to catch someone, and off we go. Controls here are up for going faster, left and right to steer, and fire to change gear. Spacebar fires off one of your nitros to take you up to a speed of 400. Not that it will seem that way. This is turgidly slow. Turgid.
Yep.
Oh, this makes Enduro Racer and Talladega look good.
Oh, dear.
Your splat of a brown sprite car floats about at the bottom of the view, and then blocky, indistinct cars appear in the distance and wobble down the road towards you. There's no sense of speed here, with normal speed being at about 260, I'm presuming kilometers per hour, but I don't know. I'm guessing someone left out the decimal point because it feels about 2.6. The cars are at least easy to pass, I guess, but should you hit one, they just disintegrate into nothing and you are slowed down. And that's like the arcade game, I guess, but it looks ridiculous here because there's no sense of being slowed down as you're never going very fast visually. So you slow down, but only a number on the UI tells you you've done that.
Yeah.
The track meanders onwards. There are splits in the road and tunnels that wobble towards you, and eventually you will catch up with the target, and you have to shunt them a number of times as everything wobbles about, and they slowly get damaged. Knocking them out sees you arrest them, you pull up in front of them, and the game loads in the next world. Yep, this piece of shit is a multi-load game. It's a multi-load. It's only 5 levels, but it's a multi-load. The colour of the track never changes, though. The cars don't change, just the layout of the course. This is just dreadful. I don't get this game. When you stack this against something like Power Drift or even Turbo Outrun, it beggars belief that once again, Ocean thought this was okay to release. I don't understand it. It's truly, truly awful. And what makes it worse, I know we had a bit of discussion on this and you think they're all crap, but there's levels of crap, okay?
Yeah.
So the Spectrum looks like a Spectrum game, but it has the sense of speed. There's there's at least a sense of speed that this lacks.
It's marginally faster, yeah.
The Amstrad version, again, it's faster and it's full colour, and they both have better drawn cars and sort of sprites and visuals. The Amstrad version is actually, when I watched a long play, I thought that's maybe it's because I was coming from the C64 version. So the Amstrad version is decent,
passable.
Full of colour, looks fine. The Spectrum version, like I said, all high roads, moves at a decent speed. The cars you drive in both of these versions look good. They don't look like a brown turd, which is what we're driving in the C64 version. Who thought putting medium res splats on a high res Spectrum S background would work in any way? How is that coherent? If you're going to do it like a Spectrum game, then do it all like a Spectrum game. At least be consistent. If you're going to do it with a C64, so put C64 backgrounds and visuals on. We've seen Power Drift, for Christ's sake.
Yep.
This is Turbo Esprit levels of bad. In fact, I think Turbo Esprit is probably better. Yep. This is one of the worst things I have played. The worst, I think, is maybe the worst driving game I have played on the system.
Yeah,
and that's,
I would agree.
Enduro Racer, Talladega. We played some god-awful crap. But when I think about some of the decent stuff that we've got, that we've had recently, and then this comes out, I don't know. This is a truly, truly awful port. I can't understand how this was ever considered £9.99 and released in this state. And I can't understand how this got 53%.
No.
The Ocean multiplayer is in full effect. It's like, they were like, I don't understand. Obviously, they removed the Amiga version at the same point, and that got a vaguely decent review. But this got 53%. This is a single digit. It's a single digit game. My disdain for Ocean and Zapp's coverage of Ocean games continues to grow. It's dreadful. I don't understand how this gets anywhere near it. It's slow, ugly, turgid, controls like an arse. It's awful. It's one of the worst things I've played in a long time. The crapcade conversion, but I might just write it off now, because if there's anything worse than this, I will be surprised. I thought Dragon Spirit was, Dragon Spirit has been reprieved.
Yeah.
because this has come along. An awful thing. We thought Karnov was the epitome, the pits, the nadir of like Spectrum, just sticking Spectrum code into the C64 for an arcade conversion. And then this came along and went, hold my badly drawn brown splat of a beer. I hated this. This was awful. What did you think?
Well, I have to take a deep breath with this because, well, firstly,
I warned you earlier in the week.
Well, yeah, you sort of gave me the heads up that there was something rotten in Denmark, and I knew that it was an Ocean release, and I knew that it had got a odd review in Zap, and I didn't know that. I just assumed that, which is terrible, isn't it? I just assumed that this would be a game that would be overblown in Zap. So at 53%, I thought if they're saying it's good at 53%, then it's got to be utterly dreadful. And then when I saw it and loaded it and started to play it, words literally failed me. And I'm never lost for words, as probably, people who listen to this would probably know. But I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that we were in 1990. We're not that far away from games like Stunt Car Racer. Turbo Outrun wasn't perfect, but Turbo Outrun was, at least a solid racing game in its own way. But also, even historically, the Pit Stop 2s, the Power Drifts, there's been tons of them. Boogie Boy. There's been a lot of racing games on the 64 that have managed to crack the racing game code, as it were.
Yep. And
then there's this. What an utterly reprehensible piece of shit this is. I mean, shame on Ocean for releasing this. And I tell you what, they didn't just shit on the Commodore 64 here. They shit on everything because every version of this was terrible. Now, like you said, there's degrees of terrible, and there is. That's true. And no one's coming out of this with glory. The Amstrad version is actually the better of the 8 bits, as it were. It's not perfect, but it has more of the game look and feel, and it sort of looks and plays a bit more like the arcade. This is so far from what you can call a finished releasable game, really, on the Commodore 64 that beggars belief. The only thing that was okay was the loading screen. Even that was kind of wide and Sesame Street-like, but at the same time, it's the only thing you can say that's good. Everything else, and I mean everything else, is utter shit. Everything. Graphics. Crap Spectrum backgrounds with awful blocky car splats. Stupid. Sounds. Terrible spot effects. That sort of braking sound and the squeaky sound. Geek, geek, geek. Horrible.
Horrible.
And that twee shitty music. What is that? Two channels. What? We're in 1990.
Yep.
I mean, are you having a laugh? I mean, have you not gone and listened to the soundtrack to Turbo Outrun? Are you mental? Okay. And by the way, Turbo Outrun is a bigger and more complicated and more graphically intensive arcade than Chase HQ as well.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that it's the difficulty of the arcade that made this challenging. The controls for this, sluggish, unresponsive, and the exact opposite of what they should be.
Yeah.
The speed, slow. In a game called Chase HQ. Chase! It's slow. Just f*** off, Ocean, with this. The fact that this thing has a Commodore font on it, so they couldn't even be bothered to draw even an arcade-style font. This looks and plays to me like something that was either unfinished or was rushed, and this could only be 2 days recreation. There's no way this is anyone's taken. Even at 6 weeks, you wouldn't be able to turn this out. They turned out an equally crap game, but a better game overall in 12 days with Operation Thunderbolt. So this must have taken less than that. So this has got to be the production of maybe 2 or 3 days tops, because the graphics are straight from the Spectrum, so they haven't redrawn any of that. The engine is from a different game. I've read somewhere that the Spectrum and the MSX or Amstrad versions, I think they utilized the WEC Le Mans engine, or one of the engines they already had. So I suspect the engine hasn't even come from an original code base.
Probably not.
And Ocean have a history of just repurposing the code from the games and bolting it together, which is exactly what this looks like. This looks like some other game code bolted in. This has got Z80 code in it, without doubt. The way it's shifting the graphics around slowly, that doesn't shout that you're using the registers of the C64. That shouts that you're just moving data through the registers of the graphics area in the graphic memory. And you're just pushing those numbers around with the CPU. So you're not really leveraging the power of the various chips and the various things that go on that, the scrolling and the ability to do different kind of screen refreshes and the different tricks that you could do on a 64. You're just taking big blocks of numbers and you're pushing them through different areas of screen RAM to make it move. Well, no wonder it's slow, because the Commodore 64 doesn't do it that way. But the Spectrum does, and the MSX does, and the other Z80 CPUs do that because they don't have that kind of processing. So you know that this game has just been pooped out of the Ocean game arsehole and just spread across all of the 8-bit formats like some kind of shit Nutella that nobody likes. Cheap Nutella. I hate to use, I hate to use this, overuse the kind of poop and the turds and the crap. This is just rubbish. Even the Amiga and the ST versions are crap as well. And they basically utilize the Batman engine for those. So, the recent Batman movie game. Yeah, the driving bits, that's repurposed and utilized for these games on the Amiga and the ST.
Right, okay.
And even that's not very good. Sound marginally better. It's still a little bit faster, but there's still a problem. Even the FM Towns version was crap of this. Fast, but crap. So there isn't a good version of this really to be had, other than later down the line when you're getting towards the kind of PS2, where it was released on some kind of compilation or other that I saw on YouTube somewhere. And also the arcade itself. And I think the Sega Saturn version has got some, it looks like the arcade, because a lot of them Sega Saturn games, they're more capable with Sega machines. They kind of look the part.
Yeah,
they do. So this should never have been released to anyone, ever, for anyone to have to suffer this. If you like the arcade, you would have bought it. There's no doubt. And the Zapped review at 53%, you probably would have still lent on it thinking, well, it's over 50%. It's not terrible. It's rubbish. You'd have been offended. Your eyes would have been like closing and just shutting down on you. I don't know. This is 2 days worth of development time, without a doubt. Clearly reusing some crappy engine code that they've used on other crappy games to produce something that's really, really rubbish. Throw this game in the ocean with a heavy rock tied to it and never let it surface again. Awful. And probably, like you said, a winner for the worst arcade conversion. Certainly the worst racing game I think I've ever played on the C64. It's even a bad Spectrum conversion on the C64. They haven't even done a very good job of that by throwing C64 sprites on top of it. This is rubbish. Go away. Go away. Go away. Never want to see it again. There is a sequel to this, believe it or not. Go away. Awful.
I think that's supposed to be actually all right, though. So there is a Chase HQ 2. We'll see that. We've got that in December.
Maybe they've got competent programmers or something like that. Well, you know what? We've historically never blamed the programmers for this. We always say, you know what? They're under time pressure. And that can only be the reason that this is like this, is that they've just get the game made. We've got X amount of time to get all these conversions done so we can maximize the amount of money that we can bleed through and rip all these poor people off. Zapp are going to give us a good review, so make sure it's out in time before the word spreads how crap it is, because that way we maximize our money. I read in our Patreon channel that there was an interview with somebody where they talked about the granny dollar or the granny pound or something like that.
Yeah.
Where, their business philosophy at Ocean was to get this game into the hands of grannies so they could buy it for their loved ones because they wouldn't know any better. Because the word for that is exploitation. That ain't a very nice business practice to do that. I get it. It's business. There's no, all fun in love and business and all the rest of it. That's just a bit of deplorable kind of unethical business practice, knowingly ripping people off, especially OAPs. That isn't very nice. And that's not something you should be proudly saying that you've done either. For my money, this is another example of Ocean doing what Ocean do, which is rip people off with crappy games and just along the line. And by the way, there isn't even really a mention of this in the Ocean history book. And I wonder, because that history book that they've written is full of all their quote-unquote great stuff. They're not going to write about the actual real version of history, which is where they're just ripping people off, are they? Just it's more evidence sealing their fate as far as I'm concerned. I've gone from thinking Ocean were a great company to thinking Ocean have just been a rip-off merchants for a long time and stinking the place up with their rubbish games. This is another one of them. Awful.
Well, yeah. Just looking at Chase HQ2, it looks a lot better. It's got proper C64. It's got the same guy who did the graphics for Turbo Outrun, for one thing.
Well,
so
there
the
you
graphics
go.
look a lot better. And it looks more like Turbo Outrun. It's Probe software again, so it's probably using the Turbo Outrun engine.
Maybe, Adrian. Maybe they're playing the long game here. Maybe they release a crap game first, so that when people rush out and buy the better one, they're going, well, it can't be as bad as that, can it?
Well,
maybe they've gone for that.
The second one is it's cartridge only.
Oh, weird. Okay, one of those weird games.
It's when we get to this point where a lot of the games from I think late 90s into 91, 92, and I've gone through them. There's quite a few just cartridge only releases.
Yes. Now I'll tell you something that I did spot in the history book about that is that there's an interview with, I forget the name of the chap in there, but from about 1991 onwards, you have a QA department in Ocean. So up to this point, none of these games have been QA'd prior to release, none of them.
Okay.
So from 91, you've got a QA department, and so they start to QA things like those cartridge games and some of those games. So they start to pick out those things, but up to this point, they don't have. So
no, any shit flies.
Yep, clearly.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Just an awful thing. It was dreadful.
Yeah, Gibbo was not pleased.
Gibbo! Gibbons!
Gibbons! Where the hell are you?
What the hell are Gibbons! Chase HQ. Hey, 53%. That's a joke, isn't it?
No.
It's a joke.
It's just unfortunately, it's a joke at people's expense.
It's a joke on the children. A literal joke on the children. There we go. That's it. That's HHQ. That's your 5 games for this week. What did we have? Well, what did we look at this week? I've completely forgotten.
Vendetta. Sorry, Vienetta.
Vienetta. We looked at the classic 80s after dinner part treat with Vienetta. Oh, you knew the party was classy when the Vienetta came out.
Oh, yeah, so, to be fair, I actually once bought a Vienetta from Iceland, I think it was. Not the country, the show. Yeah, I just sat and ate the whole lot, yeah.
There was something very satisfying to cracking the chocolate on a Vienetta when you sliced into it.
Exactly. It's like with Magnum, it's got the Magnum effect. But this wasn't in the same sitting, but it was the same month, by the way, where I went and I got 8 pints of milk and made a butterscotch flavoured Angel Delight in a giant bowl, like a massive bowl. It was the biggest bowl of Angel Delight you've ever seen, and ate the lot. I was so sick. It was unbelievable. It was worth it, though. Totally worth it.
Good Lord. How many packets of Angel Delight did you have?
I think it was about 20. It was really thick. It took ages in the fridge to set. I mean, ages. It was ridiculous.
You're a bad man. Anyway, yeah, we looked at Vienetta. We looked at Snake Boys. We looked at Footballer of the Year. I'm not going to say 2 because it's Footballer of the Year. We looked at
number 2.
We looked at Robot Boobs. And we looked at a Spectrum game. What a week!
What a cracking week. And the game of it was Robo Boobs is the best game of the lot.
Yeah, because it's a simple little strategy, sort of pen and paper style squares type thing. It's just simple. Absolutely.
With
something to turn on Robocop. Get him to produce his mercury.
Mercury. That image will never leave me.
What's wrong with him? What's up with him? Mercury.
He's having a dream of some kind. What's that even coming from?
Who let him play Blue Angel the 69?
Why did we leave that part? We took his arms off. Why did we leave that?
Right out of his USB. Anyway, there we go. If you continue to like this, you can patronize us. You can join our
become
Patreon.
A patron, yeah.
Become a patron. Join our Patreon. It's our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Zapped to the past. Price of a sandwich, maybe absolutely whatever it is these days. You can do that. You can buy us a Ko-fi or coffee at kofi.com/Zapped to the past. You can go buy some cool wares at zappedtothe.past.shop.
You can.
And get mugs or whatever you want. Just get stuff if you want to buy
some
stuff.
mugs from Mugsy. I ain't done a Mugsy mug. I need to do that.
Yeah, you should have a Mugsy mug, yeah.
I will do one. I will do one.
Need a Mugsy mug. Or you can just follow us on Twitter and Facebook and things like that and come and chat. Things are getting back to normal now. We're back into the swing of things for February. And so,
And we don't always talk about poop and robo boobs, by the way. That's just this episode. It's an unusual thing for us that we had both of those things in the same episode.
Yeah, we did.
Ice creams, robot boobs, and crap.
I randomly put the games together. I don't know what half of these things are.
No.
Blue Angel 69 does not sound like a basic strategy pen and paper game with robot boobs.
Puzzler.
With robot.
No,
how am I supposed to know that?
No, you weren't to know.
I want to know. So yeah, we'll be back next week. Next week, Graham, do you know what we've got? Would you like to know what games we're looking at next week?
I don't know if I do, but yeah, I do kind of.
It's a bit more of an interesting week next week. We've got SimCity.
Okay, that could be quite interesting, yeah.
Ghostbusters 2.
Okay, that's late, like the film.
I don't know, Ballistics.
I remember that being quite good.
Could be. Spitfire 40.
I remember that not being
No, I don't think it is. That was originally reviewed in issue 3. But we're just picking up on it. But we never looked at it. We never looked at it back then.
We look at the budgets when they come up, don't we? So
if it's a budget re-release we've not looked at, it's a budget game. And we've got Iron Lord.
I remember Iron Lord. Good music in that, as I recall.
Yeah, it's a Ubisoft game. Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got for next week as we continue our sojourn through February 1990. I think that's about it. So, you got anything you want to add on that lot?
No, I'm just going to nip off now and play a quick game of Blue Angel 69 and see if I can beat those medium level ones and see what the fuss is about.
See if you can make your thermometer pop.
I think I'll just make the computer play each other and somebody's going to win. Yeah. He
likes to watch. On that note, I think we need to go. We need to leave these poor people alone. So have a nice rest of your day. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Robo Raddings.
And you have been listening to Robo Boobies. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye. I'm such a child. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.